The sky above Manhattan tore open for exactly 3 seconds. No portal shimmered into existence. No rainbow bridge announced divine arrival. The fabric of space simply split, a vertical wound in reality that bled shadow and starlight. And Jin Woo fell through into a world that had never known the system's touch. He hit the ground in Central Park at 3:47 a.m., cratering the earth with force that should have killed a normal human. The impact sent shockwaves rippling outward, cracking pathways and toppling trees in a perfect radius. For a moment, the hunter lay still in the center of his own destruction, feeling the wrongness settle into his bones like ice water. The system interface flickered desperately across his vision, error messages cascading in Korean text he'd seen 10,000 times before. But now they meant something different. Error. Connection to architect lost. Warning. Dimensional parameters unrecognized. System functionality limited to basic operations. Quest. Generation. Offline. Leveling system. Frozen. Jin Woo pushed himself to his feet, shadows pooling around him like loyal hounds. His long black coat settled across his shoulders, somehow pristine despite the fall. He was alone, truly alone. For the first time since receiving the system's power. The constant presence of quest notifications, level-up alerts, the daily quests looming threat, all silent now. He reached for his shadow reservoir instinctively, and relief washed through him as darkness answered. They were still here. All of them. "Arise," he whispered. The command rippled through dimensions, and from his shadow emerged a single figure. Baru, the Ant King, materialized in his humanoid form, black carapace gleaming, blade arms folded respectfully. The shadow soldier's compound eyes surveyed their surroundings with predatory intelligence. "My king." Baru's telepathic voice resonated in Jin Woo's mind. "This place, it feels wrong, hollow. Where are the gates? Where is the mana saturation? We're not in our world anymore," Jin Woo replied quietly, his gray eyes scanning the unfamiliar skyline. The buildings were taller than souls, different architecture, different energy. He could feel it, or rather, feel the absence of what should be there. No dungeon gates pulsing with contained danger. No system framework underlying reality itself. This universe operated on fundamentally different rules. He pulled up his status window and his jaw tightened. Name, Jin Woo. Level, a 165, frozen. Class, Shadow Monarch. Title, King of the Dead. HP, 48,760, 48,760. MP 22 and 840 to 35 extent and 70. Regeneration rate reduced. His mana regeneration was crawling compared to what it should be. He could feel it now. The ambient magical energy in this world was different. Not weaker, just incompatible. Like trying to breathe water instead of air. His body could process it, but inefficiently. "Return," Jin Woo commanded, and Baru dissolved back into shadow. No point wasting mana until he understood this new battlefield. He began walking through the park, staying to the tree line, analyzing everything with the tactical mind that had carried him from E rank to Monarch. The city beyond the park was massive, alive with lights, even at this hour. Signs in English, he could read them, one of the system's permanent gifts, advertised everything from pizza to Broadway shows. Screens on buildings displayed news, weather, stock prices. No dungeon break warnings, no Hunter Association alerts, no countdown timers to the next crisis. What kind of world was this? His senses, honed through hundreds of life or death battles, suddenly screamed warning. Jin Woo's hand moved to the dagger at his hip as he felt it. Someone was watching him. Not with eyes, but with something else. Magic, but not like any he'd encountered. This felt ancient, refined, purposeful. The air 20 feet in front of him began to glow orange, geometric patterns emerging from nothing. Circular gateway of sparking energy expanded outward, and through it stepped a figure in yellow and orange robes. The man was Asian, broad-shouldered, with an expression of stern authority that reminded Jin Woo of Chairman Go Gun-hee, someone who had seen too much to be easily impressed. His hands still glowed with residual magic, and his eyes studied Jin Woo with the careful attention of someone cataloging a potential threat. "You've made quite an entrance," the man said, his voice carrying both warning and curiosity. "Dimensional breach, unauthorized entry, and an energy signature that's making every mystical alarm in the tri-state area lose its mind." He tilted his head. "I am Wong, Sorcerer Supreme and Protector of this reality. And you're going to tell me exactly what you are and why you've torn a hole in my world." Jin Woo's hand remained on his dagger, but he didn't draw it. This man, Wong, radiated power. Not the overwhelming force of a monarch, but something disciplined, controlled, dangerous in its precision. The magic surrounding him was woven into complex patterns Jin Woo couldn't begin to understand. "I didn't choose to come here," Jin Woo replied evenly. "The dimension I was in collapsed. This is where I ended up." "That's not an answer to what you are." Wong's hands moved through the air, and suddenly Jin Woo felt it. Invisible pressure, like the atmosphere itself was examining him, reading him. "You're human, mostly, but that's shadow magic clinging to you." Wong's eyes narrowed. Necromancy, death magic, and something else, something that looks like... He paused, confusion flickering across his features. "A computer interface? Integrated into your soul?" Jin Woo said nothing. In his experience, giving too much information before understanding the situation was how hunters died in dungeons. Wong sighed, and the magical pressure receded slightly. "Let me be clear about something. This world, this universe, has rules. One of those rules is that the dead stay dead. Resurrection magic exists, but it's catastrophically dangerous and almost universally forbidden. And you..." He gestured at Jin Woo. "You smell like you've built an army from corpses. They serve willingly," Jin Woo said simply. "The strong deserve to fight even after death. That's not how it works here." Wong's expression hardened. "The natural order isn't my concern," Jin Woo interrupted. "I protected my world using my power. If you want me to stop using it, you'll have to kill me. And we both know how that would end." The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Wong's hands glowed brighter, and behind him, more of those circular portals began to form. Jin Woo could sense figures on the other side, other magic users, positioning themselves. But before either could make the next move, an explosion lit up the night sky 15 blocks east. Both of them turned toward the sound, a building collapsing, screams piercing the pre-dawn air, and something massive roaring in triumph. Wong cursed under his breath. "We're not done," he told Jin Woo, "but right now, there are people dying." He turned toward the chaos. "Are you a hunter, or just a grave robber playing dress-up?" Jin Woo's eyes flickered with cold light. "I'm the Shadow Monarch, and I've never let innocence die when I could prevent it." "Then prove it," Wong said, and stepped through a portal that snapped open before him. Jin Woo smiled, the expression of a predator who'd just been handed an opportunity. His shadow rippled beneath him, eager, hungry. "Arise," he whispered, and 10 shadows peeled away from the darkness, forming into armored soldiers. "Let's see what monsters this world has to offer." He stepped forward, and his shadow swallowed him, transporting him through the space between darkness toward the sound of battle. The MCU had just met its newest variable, and variables, by definition, changed every equation they touched. If you want to see more crossover battles and unexpected universe collisions, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together. The portal deposited Jin Woo on a rooftop 3 blocks from the chaos, and what he saw made him reassess everything he thought he knew about this world's threat level. The creature tearing through Manhattan's financial district stood 30 feet tall, its body a grotesque fusion of rock, metal, and something that pulsed with sickly green energy. Not a dungeon monster, Jin Woo could tell immediately. The energy signature was wrong, technological rather than magical, and its movements were too erratic, too pain-driven. This wasn't a predator. It was a victim transformed into a weapon. Wong landed beside him, already weaving spell circles with practiced precision. Gamma-irradiated construction worker, caught in an illegal experiment gone wrong. The radiation bonded with experimental nanotech and... He gestured at the rampaging creature. This. Can he be saved? Jin Woo asked, watching the monster hurl a car 3 blocks down the street. Emergency vehicles were already responding, but they'd be crushed if they got too close. I don't know, Wong admitted. But we contain first, question later. You said you could help. Show me. Jin Woo's shadow exploded outward, and from the darkness emerged his vanguard. 20 armored soldiers materialized in perfect formation, knights in black plate armor, archers with bows of condensed shadow, and at their center, Igris, the blood-red commander knight, his crimson armor a stark contrast to the night. Wong's eyes widened fractionally. You weren't exaggerating about the army. This is a fraction, Jin Woo replied. I have 10,000 more where they came from. The Sorcerer Supreme stared at him for a long moment, recalculating every assumption he'd made. 10,000? Give or take. Jin Woo pointed at the creature. Your move or mine? Wong shook his head, refocusing. Containment first. I'll create a mirror dimension pocket to minimize collateral damage. You keep it distracted for 30 seconds. Done. Jin Woo stepped off the building's edge, shadow wrapping around him as he fell. 20 feet from the ground, he dissolved into darkness and reformed in the creature's shadow, directly behind it. The monster spun with surprising speed, one massive fist swinging down where Jin Woo had been a heartbeat before. The street cratered under the impact, asphalt and concrete exploding outward. But Jin Woo was already gone, reappearing on the creature's shoulder. You're in pain, Jin Woo observed, his voice carrying no sympathy, only assessment. Up close, he could see the man still trapped inside. Human features stretched and distorted under the rocky exterior, eyes wide with terror and agony. You can't control it. The creature roared and grabbed for him, but Igris was already there, the knight's blade deflecting the massive hand with impossible strength. The shadow soldier moved like liquid violence, his sword finding gaps in the rocky armor, drawing glowing green blood that hissed when it hit the pavement. Jin Woo felt the magical energy shift, and suddenly the world fractured like broken glass. The street, buildings, everything tilted and folded in ways that made no geometric sense. They were somewhere else now, still in New York, but in a reflection of it, empty of civilians. Mirror dimension established. Wong's voice echoed from above. The Sorcerer Supreme floated on a platform of magical energy, his hands moving through complex patterns. Now we can work without worrying about casualties. The creature seemed to realize it was trapped, and its panic intensified. It slammed both fists into the ground, and the entire reflected street buckled. Green energy radiated from the impact point, and Jin Woo felt it. Radiation, but not like anything from his world. This was atomic, fundamental, reality warping in its own right. His shadow soldiers spread out in practiced formation, harrying the creature from all sides. Archers fired shadow-forged arrows that pinned limbs, knights struck at joints and weak points, and Igris fought like the marshal he'd been in life, his blade dancing through combat patterns that were centuries old but eternally effective. But the creature was adapting. The nanotech in its body was learning, shifting its form to counter the attacks. Rock became metal, became crystal, each transformation making it harder to damage. "This isn't working," Wong called down. "It's evolving faster than we can contain it. We need a different approach." Jin Woo watched the creature carefully, his hunter's instincts analyzing every movement. There, beneath the transformations, beneath the pain and rage, the human core was still intact, still aware, still suffering. He could extract it. Turn this creature into a shadow soldier. Free the man from his torment. But something stopped him. The look on Wong's face earlier when he'd spoken about necromancy. The categorical rejection of death magic in this world. If Jin Woo extracted this creature, turned it into a soldier, he'd be declaring his philosophy incompatible with this universe's rules. He'd be making an enemy of the Sorcerer Supreme before he even understood the playing field. But letting the man suffer when he had the power to end it? That wasn't who Sung Jin Woo was. "I can free him," Jin Woo said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "But you won't like my method." Wong's hands paused mid-gesture. "What are you proposing?" "A mercy kill. Then I extract his essence and give him peace as a shadow soldier. He won't be trapped in that body anymore. He'll serve willingly in death, which is more dignity than he has in life right now." "Absolutely not," Wong said flatly. "I told you, necromancy is—" "Look at him." Jin Woo's voice cracked like a whip. "Really look. He's begging for death with every scream. Your magic can't separate man from monster. My power can. What's more important, your rules or his suffering?" The creature lunged at them, and Wong barely got a shield up in time. The impact sent shockwaves through the mirror dimension, cracks spreading across the fabricated reality. "We're running out of time," Wong admitted. "The mirror dimension won't hold much longer against this kind of force. If he breaks through..." He trailed off, jaw tight. "Give me another option." Jin Woo's mind raced. In his world, this would be simple. Kill, extract, done. But this universe had different rules, different ethics, and he was already the outsider. The anomaly. If he wanted any chance of surviving here long term, he couldn't afford to make himself more of a threat. "Pin him," Jin Woo ordered. His shadow soldiers responded instantly, chains of solidified darkness erupting from their forms to wrap around the creature's limbs. Igris drove his sword through the creature's foot, anchoring it to the ground. The monster thrashed, but the shadows held. Jin Woo walked forward, dagger in hand. Not to kill, to analyze. He placed his palm against the creature's chest, where the human core should be, and pushed his mana into it. Not to extract, but to map. The system interface flickered, struggling to process information in this foreign universe, but it gave him something. Analysis. Hybrid entity. Human core, intact but trapped. External shell, gamma radiation, plus nanotech symbiosis. Extraction success rate, 68%. Alternative detected. Mana disruption possible. Jin Woo's eyes narrowed. The nanotech was holding the transformation stable. If he could disrupt its power source with precisely controlled mana injections. "I need your magic," Jin Woo told Wong. "The geometric patterns you use, they're about precision, right? Perfect calculations?" Wong descended to ground level, curiosity overriding caution. "The mystic arts are about manipulating dimensional energy according to universal constants. What are you thinking?" The technology holding him in this form needs power. If we can create a null field, a space where that specific energy can't exist, the transformation might collapse. And if it doesn't, then I kill it and extract him anyway, Jin Woo said bluntly. But I'm giving your way a chance first. Wong studied him for a long moment, then nodded sharply. Tell me what you need. For the next 3 minutes, Hunter and Sorcerer worked in tandem. Wong wove spell circles around the pinned creature, geometric patterns of breathtaking complexity that bent space itself into shapes that rejected certain energy frequencies. Jin Woo fed shadow-attributed mana into the gaps, filling spaces where the nanotech tried to adapt, cutting off its evolution paths. It was like surgery with a sword, brutal, precise, and absolutely dependent on timing. The creature's roars diminished to whimpers. The rocky exterior began to crack, green light seeping out like blood from a wound. Wong's magic constricted tighter, and Jin Woo's shadows dove deeper, finding the boundary between man and monster. Now, Wong shouted. Jin Woo drove his dagger into the exact center of the creature's chest, not to kill, but to anchor. Through the blade, he channeled everything he'd learned about extraction, but inverted. Instead of pulling the essence into shadow, he pulled the shadow out of the essence, separating, purifying. The creature exploded outward in a cascade of dissolving nanotech and dissipating radiation. Wong's shields caught the worst of it, containing the fallout. And when the light faded, a man collapsed to the ground, burned, scarred, dying, but human again. Jin Woo knelt beside him, checking his pulse. Faint, fading. He won't survive, Wong said quietly, already beginning the spell to drop the mirror dimension. The radiation exposure was too severe. His cells are destroying themselves. Then let me... No! Wong's voice was firm but not unkind. You gave him his humanity back in his final moments. That's more than most get. Let him die human. Jin Woo looked down at the man, watching, the light fade from his eyes. In his world, this would be wasteful. A warrior's strength wasted when it could serve. But he'd made his choice. To try this universe's way first. The man's hand grabbed Jin Woo's coat weakly. Thank you, he whispered. I could feel it. What I was becoming. You stopped it. Then he was gone. Jin Woo stood slowly, watching Wong perform some kind of last rites, magical symbols forming over the body, bright and solemn. Around them, his shadow soldiers stood in silent formation, waiting for orders. You could have just killed him immediately and taken what you wanted, Wong observed. Why didn't you? Because I'm not in my world anymore, Jin Woo replied. And I'm not stupid enough to think I can survive here by making enemies of everyone who has power. He met Wong's eyes. But understand this. I didn't follow your rules because I agree with them. I followed them because I'm outnumbered and outmaneuvered. That won't always be true. Wong nodded slowly. At least you're honest. He gestured, and a portal opened back to the real New York. Come on. We need to talk, and I'd prefer to do it somewhere that isn't about to collapse. Jin Woo recalled his soldiers to his shadow, feeling them dissolve back into the darkness. The mana cost was higher than it should have been. His reserves were at 78% after that fight, when it would normally be at 90%. This universe was expensive. He followed Wong through the portal, emerging in what looked like an ancient library. Wooden shelves stretched impossibly high, filled with books that radiated magical energy. Through a window, Jin Woo could see mountains, not New York anymore. Kamartaj, Wong explained, the heart of Earth's mystical defense, and the place where we're going to figure out exactly what to do with you. Jin Woo's hand moved to his dagger instinctively. If you're planning to imprison me, I'm planning, Wong interrupted, to offer you tea and information. You're not the first dimensional refugee we've dealt with, sung Jin Woo. But you might be the most dangerous. He turned, robes swirling. The question is, are you dangerous to us or for us? Jin Woo considered the question carefully. Outside the window, he could see figures moving, other sorcerers watching from a distance, evaluating, judging. That depends, Jin Woo finally answered, on whether you try to control me or just want to coexist. Wong's expression was unreadable. Then let's have that tea. We have a lot to discuss. The tea was bitter, earthy, and nothing like the instant coffee Jin Woo had survived on during his early hunter days. He sat cross-legged on a cushion in Wong's private study, a room that somehow felt both cramped and infinite, lined with artifacts that hummed with residual magic. Wong sat across from him, a low table between them bearing the tea service and nothing else. No weapons visible, but Jin Woo could feel the defensive enchantments woven into every surface. One wrong move and this room would become a cage. Let me establish the parameters of our situation, Wong began, pouring himself a second cup. You are a dimensional anomaly. Your presence here violates several natural laws, and the longer you remain, the more unstable the barrier between your reality and ours becomes. Normally, we would send you back. Can you? Jin Woo asked bluntly. No. Wong's admission was matter of fact. The energy signature of your origin dimension is unlike anything in our records. Without a clear destination, attempting to open a portal would be like throwing you into the space between realities. You'd drift forever, or worse. Jin Woo had expected as much. The system interface's continued error messages had already told him the architect, the entity that had created the leveling system, didn't exist in this universe. Without that anchor, his home dimension might as well be on the other side of infinity. So I'm stuck here, Jin Woo said. You're here, Wong corrected. Whether you're stuck depends on factors we don't yet understand. The mystic arts can accomplish remarkable things, but dimensional travel without coordinates is... He trailed off, then shifted topics. Tell me about your power. The system you mentioned. How does it work? Jin Woo considered how much to reveal. In his world, knowledge was currency, and he'd learned early that the hunters who talked too much died first. But Wong had options. Banishment, imprisonment, possibly even execution if he was deemed too dangerous. Cooperation, at least initially, was the smart play. Where I come from, dimensional gates appeared around the world about a decade ago, Jin Woo began. Dungeons filled with monsters. Humans who awakened special abilities, hunters, went inside to clear them. I was one of them, the weakest initially. Initially, Wong noted, I received a unique ability, a system that allowed me to level up like a game character, complete quests, gain experience, grow stronger. Eventually, I inherited the power of the Shadow Monarch, the ability to extract the shadows of the dead and command them as soldiers. Wong's eyes narrowed. Inherited from whom? From the previous Shadow Monarch. It's complicated. There was a war between cosmic entities called rulers and monarchs. Light and shadow, order and chaos. The monarchs lost, but their powers were scattered. I claimed one. And the others? Dead. I killed them. Jin Woo's voice was flat, emotionless. The Frost Monarch, the Beast Monarch, the Plague Monarch. They threatened my world. I ended the threat. Wong set down his teacup carefully. You killed multiple cosmic entities, beings powerful enough to war with the fundamental forces of creation. Yes. And you're telling me this because? Because you're trying to decide if I'm a threat to this world, Jin Woo said. I want you to understand, I don't want conflict. I protected my world because it was my home, because my family was there. But I'm not a conqueror. I'm not going to try to rule this place or destroy it. I just want to survive until I can find a way back. Wong studied him with the careful attention of someone reading a foreign language. You understand that claiming to have killed godlike beings doesn't exactly make you seem non-threatening. Would you prefer I lied? I'd prefer you were less powerful, Wong admitted. But we work with what we have. He stood, moving to a shelf and pulling down a thick tome bound in what looked like dragon leather. Your arrival triggered resonances across multiple magical disciplines: death magic, dimensional manipulation, and something that our diagnostic spells can't categorize. This system of yours, it's not just power. It's a fundamental rewriting of how reality interacts with you. The architect built it that way, Jin Woo explained, to give humans a fighting chance against the monsters. And where is this architect now? Dead, I think. The system went quiet after the final war. It still functions, but... Jin Woo pulled up his status window, the translucent blue screen invisible to Wong. Here, it's broken. No new quests, no leveling, just basic functionality. Wong's expression shifted to something almost sympathetic. You're cut off from your power source. No. My power is my own now. The Monarch's essence is mine. But the system that guided me, that gave me direction... Jin Woo closed the window. That's gone. And I don't know if I want it back. Before Wong could respond, a sharp knock interrupted them. The door opened without waiting for permission, and a young woman in sorcerer's robes stepped in. Her eyes widened when she saw Jin Woo. Master Wong, there's a situation. S.W.O.R.D is on their way. They detected the dimensional breach and the energy signature from the Manhattan incident. They're demanding we hand over the unregistered enhanced individual for processing. Wong cursed in what sounded like Mandarin. How long? 15 minutes, maybe less. Jin Woo stood slowly, his hand moving to his dagger. S.W.O.R.D? Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. Wong explained. Space-focused defense organization. They monitor enhanced individuals and extraterrestrial threats. And right now, you qualify as both. He turned to the woman. Tell them we're conducting our own assessment. Diplomatic protocols apply. They invoked emergency powers, post-blip legislation. They can supersede diplomatic immunity for dimensional threats. Of course they can, Wong muttered. He looked at Jin Woo. You have a choice. Come with me to meet them peacefully, submit to their vetting process, and maybe, negotiate some kind of legal status, or run and make yourself a fugitive in a world you don't understand. Jin Woo's mind raced through scenarios. In his world, the Hunters Association had tried to control S-rank hunters, to regulate their power through bureaucracy and oversight. It had never worked. The strongest always operated by their own rules. But this wasn't his world, and he didn't know the power structures, the political landscape, or who his real enemies were yet. What happens if I submit to their vetting? Jin Woo asked. They'll run tests, measure your power levels, analyze your abilities, conduct psychological evaluation. If they deem you safe, you get registered as an enhanced individual with restrictions on power usage. If they deem you dangerous, Wong shrugged. Containment, possibly indefinite. And if I refuse, then you're an enemy combatant. And this world has dealt with those before. Jin Woo remembered the creature they'd just fought. The casual mention of gamma radiation and nanotech. This world had technology and powers he didn't understand. Running blind would be suicide. But submitting to people who saw him as a thing to be contained, studied, controlled, that was a different kind of death. There's a third option, Jin Woo said quietly. Wong raised an eyebrow. Witches? I meet with them, answer some questions, but I don't submit to anything. I don't get tested like a lab rat, and I don't accept registration. I make it clear that I'm here, I'm not leaving, and they can either work with me or try to make me leave. His gray eyes met Wong's brown ones. And we both know how that second option ends. With a lot of people dead, Wong said flatly. Yes. The Sorcerer Supreme sighed, looking suddenly tired. You really don't understand how outmatched you are, do you? This world has beings that could erase you from existence. Thor, god of thunder. The Hulk, a creature of pure rage that gets stronger the angrier it becomes. Captain Marvel, who channels the energy of stars. He counted them off on his fingers. And those are just the ones still on Earth. There are cosmic entities that make your monarchs look like children playing with matches. Maybe, Jin Woo acknowledged. But I've fought gods before, and I'm still here. He paused. I'm not trying to make threats, Wong. I'm trying to establish boundaries. In my world, I protected people because it was right. I'll do the same here if given the chance. But I won't be collared. I won't be controlled. And I won't apologize for surviving. Wong stared at him for a long moment, then laughed. A short, bitter sound. You know what? Fine. We'll do it your way. But when this goes sideways, remember I offered you the diplomatic option. He gestured, and a portal opened. This one leading to what looked like a rooftop in Manhattan, the skyline glittering in the early morning light. S.W.O.R.D will arrive at the sanctum in 10 minutes. We'll meet them there. Try not to start a war on your first full day in this universe. Jin Woo followed him through the portal, his shadow soldiers stirring restlessly in the darkness at his feet. They could sense his tension, his readiness for combat. They emerged on a rooftop across from a 3-story building that radiated subtle magical energy. The New York sanctum, Jin Woo assumed. Wong was already moving toward it when Jin Woo felt the shift in the air. Ozone and electricity, the signature of something approaching fast. From the sky, a sleek aircraft descended, all sharp angles and humming technology. It bore no visible weapons, but Jin Woo's instincts screamed danger. The craft landed on the street in front of the sanctum, and a ramp extended. 3 figures emerged. The first was a woman in a green flight suit, her posture military crisp, with an energy pistol holstered at her hip. Behind her came 2 figures in tactical armor, carrying weapons that crackled with the same green energy Jin Woo had seen in the creature earlier. The woman looked up at the rooftop, her eyes locking onto Jin Woo with the precision of a targeting computer. "Sung Jin Woo," she called out, her voice amplified somehow. "I'm Commander Abigail Brand, Acting Director of S.W.O.R.D. You are hereby detained under Section 47 of the Enhanced Individual Registration Act pending assessment of dimensional breach protocols. Surrender peacefully and no force will be necessary." Jin Woo didn't move. Beside him, Wong muttered, "Please tell me you're not about to do something stupid." "That depends," Jin Woo replied quietly, his eyes never leaving Brand. "How stupid do you think it is to make me choose between freedom and survival?" "On a scale of 1 to 10? About a 15. Jin Woo smiled, and his shadow began to spread across the rooftop like spilled ink. "Then, stupid? It is." From the darkness, 30 shadow soldiers rose in perfect formation, their armor gleaming black in the morning light. Igris stepped forward, his blood-red armor a declaration of war. Commander Brand's hand moved to her pistol. "Stand down, or we will open fire." "No," Jin Woo said simply. "You won't, because the second you do, I'll know where you stand, and so will everyone else watching." Wong closed his eyes in resignation. "Here we go." The standoff held for exactly 7 seconds. Long enough for Jin Woo to count the tactical mistakes S.W.O.R.D was making. And long enough for Commander Brand to realize she was facing something entirely outside her operational parameters. "You're making a mistake," Brand said, her hand still hovering near her pistol. "We're not your enemies. This is standard protocol for dimensional incursions." "Standard protocol?" Jin Woo repeated, his voice carrying across the distance between them. "Assumes I'm either ignorant or powerless. I'm neither." His shadow soldiers shifted in formation, a subtle reminder of the army waiting in the darkness. "I'll answer questions. I'll explain what I am and why I'm here. But I won't be detained, tested, or registered like property." One of the armored soldiers behind Brand whispered something into a comm unit. Jin Woo's enhanced hearing caught fragments. Energy readings off the scale. "Recommend tactical withdrawal. Requesting backup. From..." Brand held up a hand, silencing her subordinate. She was calculating, Jin Woo realized. Not just his power level, but the political implications. Whatever S.W.O.R.D was, they operated within a framework of laws and oversight. A public confrontation with a dimensional refugee who could summon an army would play badly. "Wong," Brand called out, not taking her eyes off Jin Woo. "You're vouching for this individual?" The Sorcerer Supreme stepped forward, and Jin Woo caught the briefest flicker of annoyance on his face. "I'm confirming that Sung Jin Woo is not an active threat to this dimension. He assisted in containing a gamma nanotech hybrid in Hell's Kitchen approximately 40 minutes ago. His methodology was unconventional but effective." "Unconventional how?" "He commands an army of the dead," Wong said bluntly. "Necromancy of a type I've never encountered. But he showed restraint when given the option. That counts for something." Brand's jaw tightened. Necromancy is specifically listed as a Class A mystical threat. "We have protocols." "Your protocols," Jin Woo interrupted, "were written for your universe's rules. I'm not from here. Your laws don't apply to me any more than gravity applies to your ships." He gestured at the S.W.O.R.D craft. "That flies because you built it to ignore natural limitations. I exist because I inherited power that ignores death. We're both anomalies. The difference is you had time to make your anomaly legal. It was a calculated gamble, appealing to the logic rather than the authority." In Jin Woo's experience, military types respected two things: strength and pragmatism. He'd already demonstrated the first, now he needed to offer the second. "What do you want?" Brand asked, changing tactics. "To be left alone until I find a way home," Jin Woo said. "And if I can't find a way home, to exist without being hunted or controlled. In exchange, I won't interfere with your world's conflicts unless they directly threaten me or innocent people I can save. That's not how this works. We have systems, oversight, accountability." "You have bureaucracy," Jin Woo corrected. "I've seen what happens when hunters submit to systems like yours. The strong get leashed, the weak get sacrificed, and the organizations pretend they're protecting people while they're really just managing threats to their own power." His expression hardened. "I didn't fight my way to the top of my world's hierarchy to be collared in yours." Brand's hand finally dropped away from her pistol. "You're from a world with hunters. Some kind of enhanced individual system?" "Something like that." "Then you understand why we need registration, control. One rogue enhanced can kill thousands. We've seen it happen. New York was nearly destroyed multiple times. Half the universe was erased because we didn't have adequate safeguards against cosmic-level threats." The last part caught Jin Woo's attention. "Half the universe?" Wong spoke up. 5 years ago, a being named Thanos collected 6 Infinity Stones, artifacts of fundamental reality. He used them to erase half of all life in the universe. We call it the blip. It was undone, but he trailed off, the weight of memory heavy in his voice. The damage was catastrophic. Trillions dead, then resurrected 5 years later. The world is still recovering. Jin Woo processed this information, recalibrating his understanding of this universe's power scale. Artifacts that could rewrite reality. Beings that could kill half of all life with a thought. His monarchs had been devastating, but their scope was limited to Earth and the dimensional gates. This world's threats were cosmic in scale. I understand your caution, Jin Woo said carefully, but I'm not your enemy. I didn't choose to come here, and I'm not planning to conquer anything. I just want to survive. Everyone says that, Brand replied, right up until they don't. Before Jin Woo could respond, the air shimmered, and 3 more figures appeared on the street beside Brand. No portal, no aircraft, just sudden materialization. Jin Woo's hand moved to his dagger instinctively. The first figure was a woman in a red and gold uniform, energy crackling around her fists. Her eyes glowed with barely contained power, and her stance was ready for combat. The second was a man with metal wings, holding what looked like a shield. The third was green-skinned, wearing tactical gear, and studying Jin Woo with the analytical gaze of someone who'd fought too many battles to be easily impressed. Captain Marvel, Wong muttered. This just escalated. The glowing woman floated up to rooftop level, stopping 20 feet from Jin Woo. Up close, he could feel the energy radiating from her. Cosmic, vast, powerful enough to crack planets. She studied his shadow soldiers with interest rather than fear. Carol Danvers, she introduced herself. Commander Brand called me in for consultation. You're the dimensional refugee? Sung Jin Woo, he replied, not backing down despite the clear power differential. And refugee implies I'm asking for help. I'm not. Carol's lips quirked in what might have been amusement. No, you're threatening to fight S.W.O.R.D if they try to register you. Which is bold, I'll give you that. She glanced at the shadow soldiers. These are interesting. Magical constructs. The shadows of warriors I've defeated. They served me willingly in death. Necromancy, Carol said thoughtfully. Not my usual specialty, but I've seen weirder. She looked back at Jin Woo. Here's the thing. I've been to hundreds of worlds, fought in a dozen intergalactic wars, and dealt with every kind of refugee, conqueror, and cosmic threat you can imagine. So I'm going to ask you a simple question, and I want a simple answer. Are you going to be a problem? Jin Woo met her glowing eyes, without flinching. Only if you make me one. Not good enough? I need specifics. What are your capabilities? What are your limitations? What do you want? My capabilities are my own business until someone gives me a reason to reveal them. My limitations are something I'm still discovering in this universe. What I want is to exist without being hunted, controlled, or studied. Jin Woo's shadow rippled. And before you threaten me, understand that I've killed God-level entities in my world. I don't know if I can beat you, but I know the cost would be high enough that you'd prefer not to find out. Carol studied him for a long moment, then laughed, a genuine sound of surprise. You know what? I respect the honesty. She descended back to street level, landing beside Brand. Commander, I don't think registration is going to work here. Captain Marvel, the protocols are designed for Earth-born enhanced individuals or alien refugees seeking asylum. This is neither. Carol gestured at Jin Woo. He's a dimensional anomaly with power we can't easily measure and ethics we don't fully understand. Forcing registration will either fail or start a conflict we don't need. Then, what do you suggest? Carol looked up at Jin Woo. Probation. Informal monitoring. He agrees to check in periodically, doesn't cause any major incidents, and helps out if we have a situation he's qualified for. In exchange, we don't hassle him about registration and give him space to figure out his situation. Brand's expression was skeptical. That's not protocol. Protocol didn't account for someone like him. Carol shrugged. We adapt or we create unnecessary enemies. Your choice, Commander. Jin Woo watched the exchange with interest. This Carol Danvers had authority that superseded Brand's, and she was offering him something that resembled the independence he'd demanded. But there was a trap in every offer. The question was whether he could live with it. Define check-in, Jin Woo said. Carol looked back up at him. Once a month, you meet with either me, Wong, or a designated S.W.O.R.D representative. You answer questions about your activities, your power fluctuations, anything unusual you've noticed. You don't have to reveal everything, but you give us enough to know you're not planning anything catastrophic. And if I refuse? Then we mark you as a potential threat and monitor you remotely, which means constant surveillance, interference with any attempts to build a life here, and immediate response teams on standby whenever you sneeze wrong. Carol's expression hardened. I'm offering you the easy path. Don't be stupid enough to choose the hard one. Jin Woo considered. Monthly meetings were manageable. He dealt with worse oversight from the Korean Hunters Association, and having Carol Danvers as a semi-ally was better than having her as an active enemy. Fine, Jin Woo said, but I have conditions. 1. I choose the meeting location. 2. No tracking devices, magical or technological. 3. If you need my help with a threat, you ask, you don't demand. And 4. You actively help me search for a way back to my dimension. Carol glanced at Brand, then Wong, then back to Jin Woo. Conditions 1 through 3 are acceptable. Condition 4. She paused. I can't promise we'll find anything. Dimensional travel is unpredictable at best. But I'll put you in contact with people who might be able to help. Deal? Jin Woo recalled his shadow soldiers, and they melted back into his shadow like water into sand. The visible threat removed, the tension on the street eased fractionally. Deal, Jin Woo said. Wong exhaled in visible relief. Thank the Vishanti. I really didn't want to clean up after a fight between you two. Carol smirked. You think I'd win? I think Manhattan would lose. Wong opened a portal. Jin Woo, come with me. We need to establish your first check-in schedule and get you oriented to this world. Commander Brand, Captain Marvel, I'll send you my report within the hour. Brand nodded stiffly, clearly unhappy but unwilling to override Carol's decision. The winged man and the green-skinned woman, whoever they were, relaxed their combat stances. Carol gave Jin Woo one last measuring look, then shot into the sky, disappearing in a streak of golden light. Jin Woo followed Wong through the portal, emerging back in Kamartaj. The moment they were alone, Wong turned to him with an expression of tired exasperation. You do realize you just agreed to be monitored by one of the most powerful beings on Earth, right? Better than being hunted by her, Jin Woo replied. And I bought myself time to understand this world before committing to anything permanent. Time, Wong repeated. Yes. Let's talk about that. Because you're going to need somewhere to live, a way to survive without drawing constant attention, and an understanding of how this world actually works before you accidentally start another blip. Jin Woo allowed himself a slight smile. I'm a fast learner. You'd better be, Wong muttered. Because the next person who comes looking for you might not be as reasonable as Carol Danvers. Through the window, Jin Woo could see sorcerers practicing in the courtyard, their hands weaving patterns of light and force. This world was strange, dangerous, and nothing like home. But he'd survived worse. He'd climbed from E rank to Shadow Monarch through blood, pain, and determination. This was just another dungeon, and Jin Woo had never failed to clear one yet. Wong's idea of orientation involved 3 hours of information that made Jin Woo's head spin worse than any battle he'd ever fought. They sat in a library annex, surrounded by floating holographic displays that Wong conjured with casual gestures. News feeds, historical records, power assessment charts, and what looked like a constantly updating threat matrix. Jin Woo absorbed it all, with the focused intensity he'd once used to memorize dungeon patterns. "The world you've entered is still recovering from the blip," Wong explained, highlighting a timeline. 5 years of chaos. Governments collapsed, economies shattered, families torn apart. When everyone came back, they returned to a world that had moved on without them. Jobs filled, homes sold, loved ones remarried. The social upheaval is ongoing. Jin Woo studied the data. Billions displaced, infrastructure strained, crime rates spiking as desperate people made desperate choices. It reminded him of the early days after Gates first appeared in his world. The panic, the lawlessness, the scramble for survival. The power vacuum left by the Avengers' dissolution created opportunities. Wong continued, pulling up profiles of various individuals. Some good, most not. You'll encounter 3 types of enhanced individuals here. Heroes trying to fill the gap, villains exploiting the chaos, and opportunists playing both sides. "Which are you?" Jin Woo asked. Wong's expression was dry. The exhausted type trying to keep reality from collapsing while everyone else plays politics. He zoomed in on a particular section of the threat matrix. Pay attention to these organizations. S.W.O.R.D, you've met. S.H.I.E.L.D. is their predecessor, mostly defunct, but fragments remain. The CIA has an enhanced individuals division. Wakanda operates independently. And then there are the informal networks, heroes who coordinate without official sanction. No centralized hunter association? We tried that. It ended badly. Wong dismissed the displays with a wave. The Sokovia Accords attempted to register and regulate enhanced individuals. The Avengers split over it. Half the team became fugitives. The whole system collapsed during the blip. He fixed Jin Woo with a pointed look, which is why Carol's offer was remarkably generous. She's giving you what the Avengers killed each other over, autonomy with minimal oversight. Jin Woo filed that information away. The political landscape here was fractured, tribal, held together by individual relationships rather than institutional authority. Not unlike the hunter world before the great guilds consolidated power. "What about resources?" Jin Woo asked. "Currency, housing, basic survival needs." Wong pulled up a different display. Financial records, property listings, employment databases. That's trickier. You don't exist in this world's systems. No birth certificate, no social security number, no legal identity. Normally, we'd work with S.H.I.E.L.D. or S.W.O.R.D to create a cover identity, but given your insistence on independence, I can acquire what I need, Jin Woo said. Through theft? Through work. Jin Woo leaned back. In my world, high-rank hunters took contracts. Clear dungeons, eliminate threats, get paid. This world has threats. I'm assuming someone pays people to handle them. Mercenary work. Wong looked uncomfortable. Yes, there's a market for that. But it's morally gray at best. Organizations like S.W.O.R.D handle major threats through official channels. What's left is either too small for them to bother with or too illegal for them to touch. Perfect, Jin Woo said. Point me toward the illegal work. I'm not going to... Wong stopped, reading Jin Woo's expression. you're serious. I've killed monarchs and saved my world. I'm not above getting my hands dirty to survive. Jin Woo stood, moving to the window. Outside, the Himalayan peaks stretched toward a sky going pink with sunset. In my world, I started at the bottom. E rank, barely. Strong enough to survive. I took whatever jobs paid, no matter how degrading. I crawled through sewers hunting slimes for pocket change. This isn't different. It is different, Wong insisted. In your world, you had a system, rules. Here, the criminal underworld is run by organizations that won't hesitate to exploit or eliminate you. And if you're caught working for them, Carol's probation offer evaporates. Jin Woo turned back to face him. Then I won't get caught. Wong stared at him for a long moment, then sighed in resignation. You're going to do this regardless of what I say, aren't you? Yes. Fine. But let me at least point you toward the less catastrophic options. Wong conjured a new display, a map of New York with various locations marked. There's a bar in Hell's Kitchen. The owner, Luke Cage, is enhanced. Bulletproof skin, superhuman strength. He runs a community center during the day and the bar at night. Heroes and enhanced individuals use it as neutral ground. If you're looking for work that doesn't involve becoming a supervillain, start there. Jin Woo memorized the address. Luke Cage, Hell's Kitchen. Anything else I should know? Yes. Hell's Kitchen has its own protector. Calls himself Daredevil. Blind vigilante, enhanced senses, skilled fighter. He's protective of his territory and doesn't take kindly to unknown, enhanced individuals operating without his approval. I'll deal with that if it becomes a problem. Jin Woo moved toward the door. Is there anything else? Wong held up a hand. One more thing. Your mana regeneration. You said it's slower here. I've been thinking about that. He pulled up a diagram of what looked like energy flow patterns. Your magic operates on a death shadow frequency. Earth's ambient magical energy is primarily dimensional and elemental. The incompatibility is causing the inefficiency. Can it be fixed? Possibly. If you learn to attune to Earth's magical frequencies, you could draw on both your native energy and ours. It would require training in the mystic arts. Not to replace your power, but to supplement it. Jin Woo considered the offer. Learning this world's magic would make him more effective, less dependent on his finite reserves. But it would also mean spending time here, committing to existence in this universe rather than focusing solely on finding a way home. How long would training take? Months for basic attunement, years to master. Wong's expression softened slightly. But even basic training would improve your efficiency significantly, and it would give you knowledge you might need to find your way home. Understanding dimensional magic from this side might reveal paths your system couldn't. That decided it. When do we start? Not we. I have responsibilities I can't abandon. Wong opened a portal, and through it, Jin Woo saw a different part of Kamartaj, a courtyard where a single figure practiced complex movements, energy trailing from their hands in geometric patterns. Her name is Erica. She specializes in training difficult students. The woman in the courtyard stopped mid-form, turning to face the portal as if she'd sensed it opening. She was South Asian, maybe early 40s, with scars on her arms that spoke of hard-won experience. Her eyes met Jin Woo's across the distance, and he saw recognition there. Not of him specifically, but of his type. Someone who'd fought their way up from nothing. She'll teach you what you need to know, Wong said. If you're willing to learn. Jin Woo stepped through the portal without hesitation. He'd learned early that pride was a luxury hunters couldn't afford. If this Erica could make him stronger, more adaptable, Then he'd train under her. Simple as that. The courtyard was smaller than it had looked, surrounded by stone walls covered in mystical inscriptions. Erica watched him approach with the assessing gaze of a predator evaluating potential prey. "Wong says you need attunement, training," she said without preamble, her accent British. "That you're from another dimension and your magic doesn't quite fit here." "That's correct." "Show me." Jin Woo extended his hand, and shadow pooled in his palm, thick, almost liquid, darker than the evening shadows around them. It writhed like something alive, responding to his will but clearly struggling against some invisible resistance. Erica frowned. "Death attributed. Interesting. We don't see much of that here. Most necromancers are either amateurs playing with forces they don't understand or cosmic entities best left alone." She circled him slowly. "You're neither. You're something else entirely." "I'm a hunter," Jin Woo said simply. "We're all hunters of one kind or another." Erica stopped in front of him. "The question is, what are you hunting for? Right now? Survival? Long-term, a way home?" "Honest, I can work with that." She gestured for him to stand in the center of the courtyard. "Attunement training starts with understanding that magic isn't just power, it's language. Every universe speaks its own dialect. Your shadow magic is fluent in Death's language. Earth's magic speaks in elements, dimensions, and cosmic forces. To function efficiently here, you need to become bilingual." Jin Woo moved to the center, waiting for instruction. "Close your eyes," Erica commanded. "Feel the energy around you. Don't try to use it, just observe." Jin Woo obeyed, extending his senses outward. He'd done similar exercises in his world, learning to detect dungeon bosses through walls, to sense ambushes before they struck. But this was different. The energy here was layered, complex, woven through with patterns his instincts didn't recognize. "What do you feel?" Erica asked. "Texture," Jin Woo said slowly. "Like fabric with different threads, some smooth, some rough, some that vibrate at frequencies I can almost grasp." "Good. Those are Earth's ley lines, natural magical currents that flow through the planet. Your shadow magic cuts across them rather than flowing with them. That's why your regeneration is compromised. You're swimming upstream." "How do I fix it?" "By learning to swim with the current instead of against it." Erica began to walk around him, her footsteps precise, deliberate. "For the next hour, I'm going to guide you through basic meditation techniques. You won't master this quickly, but you'll begin to understand the shape of this world's magic. And understanding is the first step toward adaptation." Jin Woo settled into a meditative stance, his breathing slowing, his mind focusing. This wasn't so different from the early days of leveling, learning to sense mana, to control it, to shape it according to his will. He'd been patient then, grinding through repetitive exercises until they became second nature. He could be patient now. As Erica's voice guided him through the meditation, Jin Woo felt something shift, not dramatic, but present. A slight easing of the resistance he'd felt since arriving. His shadow magic still didn't fully belong here, but it was learning to coexist, to find gaps in the current where it could flow without fighting. Hours passed. The sun set completely, and the courtyard filled with moonlight and the soft glow of mystical inscriptions activating in the darkness. When Erica finally called a halt, Jin Woo opened his eyes to find his mana had regenerated to 94%, higher than it had been since his arrival. "Not bad for a first session," Erica observed. "You pick things up quickly." "I've had practice learning new systems." Jin Woo stood, rolling his shoulders to work out the stiffness. "How often should I train?" "Daily, if you want real progress. But I suspect you have other priorities. Erica pulled a small stone from her pocket, smooth, dark, inscribed with symbols Jin Woo didn't recognize. Take this. It's attuned to Kamartaj. When you're ready for another session, channel a small amount of mana into it. I'll open a portal. Jin Woo accepted the stone, feeling the latent magic within it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You've barely started. Erica turned away, then paused. One more thing. Wong mentioned you're planning to take mercenary work. Be careful. This world's criminals are more dangerous than you think. They have technology, magic, and resources that can rival nations. And they won't care about your sad backstory or your quest to get home. To them, you're just another asset to exploit or obstacle to eliminate. I'll keep that in mind. Erica snorted. No, you won't. People like us never do. We always think we're special enough to handle it. She looked back at him, and for a moment, Jin Woo saw something like concern in her eyes. Just try not to die in your first week. It would be a waste of a promising student. A portal opened. Wong's work, Jin Woo assumed, leading back to the rooftop where this had all started. He stepped through, emerging into the New York night. The city sprawled before him. Millions of lights, billions of problems, and somewhere in that chaos, a place for him to exist. Jin Woo pulled up the mental map Wong had shown him. Hell's Kitchen was 15 miles south. He could run it in minutes, or he could use Shadow Exchange to travel through the darkness. But running would give him time to observe, to understand the city's rhythms, to see how this world's people moved and lived. And he needed that understanding more than he needed speed. So Sung Jin Woo, Shadow Monarch, S-rank hunter, and dimensional refugee began to run through the streets of New York City, searching for a bar where heroes gathered and opportunities waited. Behind him, his shadow stretched long and dark, and within it, 10,000 soldiers waited for the command to arise. Luke's bar sat on a corner in Hell's Kitchen, wedged between a laundromat and a bodega that had seen better decades. The neon sign flickered, half the letters dark, but the place radiated a different kind of energy than the surrounding buildings. Jin Woo could feel it from a block away. Controlled power, disciplined strength, the signature of enhanced individuals trying to blend into normalcy. He'd spent the run observing the city. New York at night was different from Seoul, louder, denser, more chaotic. But the fundamental patterns were the same. Working people heading home late, street vendors packing up, the occasional drunk stumbling between bars, and underneath it all, the subtle wrongness that came with hidden dangers. Jin Woo had learned to read cities the way other hunters read dungeon maps. This neighborhood had problems. He'd passed 3 drug deals, witnessed 2 muggings from rooftops, and sensed at least one enhanced individual moving through the shadows with predatory intent. Hell's Kitchen was aptly named. Jin Woo pushed open the bar's door, and conversation died. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward him. The bar was about half full, working-class crowd mostly, but Jin Woo's hunter instincts pinged on at least 6 enhanced individuals scattered throughout the room. The man behind the bar was the most obvious. Built like a tank, bald head gleaming under the lights, arms the size of tree trunks crossed over a chest that could probably stop bullets. Luke Cage, Jin Woo assumed. "We're about to close," Luke said, his voice a deep rumble that carried authority without aggression. "Kitchen's already shut down." "I'm not here for food," Jin Woo replied, moving to the bar. He deliberately kept his hands visible, his posture non-threatening. "Wong sent me. Said you might know where someone with my particular skills could find work." Luke's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Wong, the Sorcerer Supreme. He glanced at the other. Patrons, and several of them took the hint, finishing their drinks and heading for the door. Within 2 minutes, the bar had cleared except for 3 individuals who stayed put. A woman with white hair and dark skin nursing a whiskey, a wiry man in tactical gear cleaning his pistol at a corner table, and someone in a red hood sitting in the shadows. "Skills," Luke repeated once the door closed. "What kind?" "Combat, extraction, elimination of threats." Jin Woo met his gaze steadily. "I'm new to this world. I need resources to survive. I have abilities that are useful. I'm looking for the overlap." The white-haired woman laughed, sharp and cynical. "Fresh meat doesn't usually walk in here announcing they're dimensional refugees. You got a death wish, or are you just stupid?" "Neither," Jin Woo said. "I'm realistic. I could lie about my origins, build a false identity, operate in secret. But that takes time I don't have and creates complications I don't need. Better to be honest about what I am and let people decide whether to work with me or against me." Luke poured himself a drink, bourbon, neat, and studied Jin Woo with the careful attention of someone who'd learned not to judge by appearances. "You're either incredibly confident or incredibly naive. I'm trying to figure out which." "Does it matter?" "Yeah, it does. Because confidence I can work with. Naivety gets people killed." Luke sipped his bourbon. "You say Wong sent you. That means you've already encountered S.W.O.R.D and lived to tell about it. Carol Danvers didn't vaporize you, and Wong isn't actively trying to banish you. That's interesting." "I made a deal," Jin Woo explained. "Monthly check-ins, no major incidents. In exchange, they leave me alone." The man in tactical gear looked up from his pistol. "Carol Danvers doesn't make deals with unknowns. What did you do to earn that?" "Proved I was more useful as an ally than dangerous as an enemy." The figure in the red hood shifted, and Jin Woo's senses screamed warning. This one was different from the others. Enhanced senses, he'd bet. Possibly the daredevil Wong had mentioned. The vigilante was listening to everything, reading body language and heartbeat, evaluating threat level. "Show us," the white-haired woman said, leaning forward. "You talk big about abilities. Prove it." Jin Woo considered for a moment, then extended his hand. Shadow pooled in his palm, coalescing into a dagger. Night Killer, his signature weapon, formed from pure darkness. The blade gleamed with otherworldly light, and the temperature in the bar dropped 5 degrees. "Shadow manipulation," Luke observed. "Magic-based. Related to the mystic arts?" "Related to death," Jin Woo corrected. He dismissed the dagger, and it dissolved back into shadow. "I'm what my world called the Shadow Monarch. I command an army of soldiers extracted from defeated enemies. In my world, I was S rank. Top of the hierarchy. Here." He shrugged. "I'm still figuring out where I stand." The figure in red spoke for the first time, voice rough and Brooklyn accented. "You're standing in my neighborhood without permission. That's where you stand." Daredevil confirmed. Jin Woo turned to face him fully. "I'm not here to claim territory. I'm here to survive." Everyone says that. Then they start operating, drawing attention, bringing down heat on everyone around them. The vigilante stood, moving with the controlled grace of a trained fighter. "Hell's Kitchen doesn't need another variable. We've got enough problems." "Then let me solve some of them," Jin Woo offered. "You want me out of your territory? Give me work that takes me somewhere else. You want to know I won't cause problems? Test me on a job you control. I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for opportunity." Luke set down his glass with a heavy thunk. "Here's the situation. This bar is neutral ground. Heroes, vigilantes, enhanced individuals. They come here because I guarantee safety. No fights, No. Recruiting, no drama. You want to operate in New York, you respect that rule. Agreed. Second, Luke continued, we don't work with villains. I don't care how desperate you are or how good the money is. You take a job from Kingpin, from Hydra remnants, from anyone actively hurting people, and you're done here. Permanently. I'm not interested in working for criminals, Jin Woo said. I kill threats. I don't become one. The white-haired woman snorted. Noble, let's see how long that lasts when you're broke and hungry. Ororo? Luke said quietly, and the woman subsided. He turned back to Jin Woo. Third rule, you work jobs, you report back. Not details. I don't need to know operational specifics. But who hired you, General Scope, and confirmation you didn't cross any lines. That's the price of using this bar as a hub. Jin Woo weighed the terms. They were fair, more than fair, actually. Luke was offering him access to a network, protection of neutral ground, and a way to build reputation. The oversight was minimal, and the rules aligned with his own ethics. Acceptable, Jin Woo said. Luke nodded slowly. All right. There's a situation that came up 2 days ago. Enhanced individual went rogue in Brooklyn. Calls himself Tremor. Can generate seismic waves, bring down buildings. He's holed up in an abandoned factory, threatening to level the neighborhood if anyone comes after him. Why hasn't S.W.O.R.D handled it? Because the neighborhood is mostly undocumented immigrants, Ororo said quietly. S.W.O.R.D rolls in with their tech and soldiers. People scatter. Half of them get deported, the other half end up in databases they've spent years avoiding. The community asked us to handle it quietly. Jin Woo understood immediately. This was a test. Handle a dangerous enhanced individual without collateral damage, without drawing official attention, and do it in a way that protected vulnerable people. Success would prove he could operate with precision. Failure would mark him as just another blunt instrument. What's the capture or kill authorization? Jin Woo asked. Capture preferred, Luke said. But Tremor's killed 3 people already. If it comes down to him or civilians, you make the call. Payment, $3,000. Cash, no questions asked. Luke pulled out a tablet and showed Jin Woo a map. Factory's here. Last report had him on the 3rd floor, northeast corner. He's paranoid, armed, and his powers make him incredibly dangerous in an enclosed space. Jin Woo memorized the location. I'll need an hour to scout and plan. You've got until sunrise, Daredevil said. After that, S.W.O.R.D gets involved whether the community wants them or not. Carol Danvers is giving us till dawn out of respect for Luke, but she won't wait longer. Jin Woo checked the time, 2:47 a.m. That gave him about 3 hours, more than enough. I'll handle it, Jin Woo said, turning toward the door. Wait. Ororo stood, moving with liquid grace. Up close, Jin Woo could see her eyes had no pupils, completely white like storm clouds. You're going in alone? No backup? I work alone. That's how people die, she said flatly. In my world, I cleared the most dangerous dungeons solo, Jin Woo replied. I'm used to operating without support. This isn't a dungeon, Daredevil said. This is a terrified man with powers he can barely control, trapped in a building surrounded by families. One wrong move and you bring the whole structure down on their heads. Jin Woo paused at the door, then turned back. Then I won't make a wrong move. He left before anyone could argue further, stepping out into the Hell's Kitchen night. The bar door closed behind him with a soft click, and he immediately felt the weight of attention. Daredevil was tracking him. Jin Woo could sense the vigilante's focus like a physical pressure. Let him watch. Jin Woo had nothing to hide. He pulled up his status screen, checking his resources. Mana at 96% after the earlier meditation training. Physical condition optimal. Shadow army at full capacity. For a single enhanced individual in a confined space, he could afford to be conservative with his approach. Jin Woo began moving toward Brooklyn, using rooftops to avoid street traffic. As he ran, he analyzed the tactical problem. Tremor's seismic powers made direct confrontation risky. Any vibration could collapse the building. But shadows didn't vibrate. They didn't have mass to shake. They existed in the spaces between physical matter. A plan formed. 30 minutes later, Jin Woo crouched on a rooftop across from the target factory. The building was old, probably pre-war construction, with broken windows and rusted fire escapes. He extended his senses, searching for life signs. There, 3rd floor, northeast corner, just like the intel said. 1 heat signature, elevated heart rate, erratic movement patterns. Tremor was pacing, stressed, probably sleep-deprived and paranoid. Jin Woo counted the surrounding buildings. Residential apartments, mostly. Lights off in most windows, but some still awake. A child crying in a 2nd-floor unit. An elderly couple watching late-night television. Normal people living their lives, unaware that a ticking bomb sat 300 feet away. He couldn't afford collateral damage, which meant he couldn't afford a fight. Jin Woo dissolved into his shadow, reforming in the darkness beneath Tremor's building. The basement was flooded with about 3 inches of stagnant water, the air thick with mold and decay. Perfect. Shadows loved decay. He sent his consciousness upward through the building's shadows, mapping the structure. Support beams compromised on the 2nd floor. Northern wall unstable. The whole building was a death trap waiting for one good shake. Tremor was still pacing on the 3rd floor, muttering to himself. Jin Woo caught fragments through the floorboards. Won't take me alive. They'll lock me up like the others. Just wanted to be left alone. Not a villain then. Just someone who'd awakened powers he didn't understand and panicked when authorities came calling. Jin Woo had seen it before. E-rank hunters who'd killed accidentally, then run rather than face consequences. He could work with that. Jin Woo rose through the shadows, emerging on the 3rd floor behind a support column. Tremor didn't notice, too focused on the windows, watching for approaching threats. Tremor, Jin Woo said quietly. The man spun, hands glowing with building energy. Stay back, I'll bring this whole place down. I know you will, Jin Woo said, not moving. That's why I'm not going to fight you. Tremor's hands trembled. He was young, early 20s maybe, scared, exhausted. S.W.O.R.D sent you. Luke Cage sent me to offer you a choice. I'm not going to some prison. Good. Neither would I. Jin Woo took a careful step forward. But you can't stay here, and you can't keep threatening people. So we need a different solution. There is no solution. They'll lock me up, study me, turn me into a weapon. Tremor's power flared, and the floor beneath them groaned ominously. Jin Woo felt the building shift, microfractures spreading through concrete, steel screaming under stress. He had seconds before this became a disaster. Arise, he whispered. From his shadow, a single figure emerged. Not a warrior, but one of his stealth-class soldiers. The shadow moved like smoke, circling behind Tremor faster than the enhanced man could track. What? Tremor started to turn, but the shadow soldier was already there, one hand pressing a precise point on his neck. Tremor's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed. The gathering seismic energy dissipated harmlessly. Jin Woo caught him before he hit the ground, then looked up at his shadow soldier. Good work. Return. The soldier dissolved back into darkness, and Jin Woo hoisted Tremor over his shoulder. The man was unconscious, not dead. Pressure point. Strike, perfectly calculated. he'd wake up in about 20 minutes with nothing worse than a headache. Jin Woo descended through the shadows, emerging in the alley behind the factory. He pulled out the burner phone Luke had provided and sent a text to the number listed. Package secured. No casualties. Where do you want delivery? The response came 30 seconds later. Community Center, 3 blocks west. Dr. Rodriguez waiting. Jin Woo began walking, keeping to the shadows. The streets were quieter here, the pre-dawn stillness settling over Brooklyn like a blanket. He passed a bodega just opening, the owner giving him a wary look before deciding not to ask questions about the unconscious man over his shoulder. The community center was a converted church, its doors propped open despite the hour. A woman in a white coat waited on the steps, Dr. Rodriguez, presumably. She looked at Tremor, then at Jin Woo, her expression unreadable. He's unharmed, Jin Woo said. Unconscious. He'll wake soon. And then what? She asked. That's not my concern. I was hired to extract him without casualties. Mission accomplished. Jin Woo handed Tremor over to 2 orderlies, who'd appeared from inside. But for what it's worth, he's scared, not evil. Someone should help him before he actually becomes what he's afraid of becoming. Dr. Rodriguez studied Jin Woo for a long moment. Luke said you were different. I see what he meant. She pulled an envelope from her pocket. Your payment and a message. Luke wants to see you back at the bar. Says you passed the test. Jin Woo accepted the envelope without counting it. Tell him I'll be there in an hour. He left before she could respond, disappearing into the breaking dawn. The job had been almost too easy. But that was the point, wasn't it? Demonstrate competence, precision, and ethics. Build a reputation, establish value. Jin Woo had played this game before, climbing from E-rank nobody to S-rank legend. The rules were different. Here, but the fundamentals were the same. Show strength without brutality. Solve problems efficiently. And never, ever give people a reason to fear you more than they need you. As he ran back toward Hell's Kitchen, Jin Woo allowed himself a small smile. The MCU was dangerous, complicated, and nothing like home. But it was starting to feel like a dungeon he could clear. The sun was fully up by the time Jin Woo returned to Hell's Kitchen, painting the city in shades of orange and gold. He found Luke Cage waiting for him on the bar's front stoop, sipping a cup of coffee and watching the neighborhood wake up. Got your text, Luke said, gesturing for Jin Woo to join him. Dr. Rodriguez says you delivered Tremor clean. No damage to the building, no civilian injuries. Even convinced him to stay for counseling instead of running the second he woke up. He seemed reasonable, Jin Woo said, taking the offered coffee. Just scared. Most of them are. Luke's expression was thoughtful. This world doesn't handle the suddenly enhanced well. You either become a superhero with sponsorship, a villain with an agenda, or you disappear into the system. Tremor chose a 4th option, panic. You gave him a 5th. It was the job. Maybe. But it wasn't just the job. Luke looked at him directly. You could have killed him. It would have been faster, easier, and technically within the parameters. Instead, you did the hard thing. That tells me something. Jin Woo sipped his coffee, bitter and strong. It tells you I'm not a mindless weapon. It tells me you have a moral compass. And in this line of work, that's more valuable than any power. Luke stood, stretching. Come inside. We need to talk about the bigger picture. The bar was empty, chairs stacked on tables, the smell of disinfectant strong in the air. Luke led him to a back office, small and utilitarian, with a desk piled with paperwork and a single window overlooking an alley. The Tremor job was a test, Luke confirmed, sitting behind the desk. You passed. That means you get access to the network. But it also means you're on people's radars. Good people and bad people. Jin Woo leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Explain. There's a power vacuum in New York's underground. Post-blip, with the Avengers gone, and S.W.O.R.D focused on cosmic threats. The street-level scenes gotten messy. Kingpin's trying to re-establish control. Hydra remnants are making moves. There are new players, enhanced individuals who think the chaos is an opportunity. And where do I fit? That depends on you. Luke pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the desk. 2 days ago, a S.W.O.R.D transport was hit. Low security, non-combat. It was carrying confiscated artifacts. Things too dangerous to keep in regular lockup, but not dangerous enough for the really secure facilities. Jin Woo scanned the report. They took everything? Not just took, they knew exactly what to hit, when to hit it, and how to bypass security protocols. This wasn't a smash and grab. This was professional. And the artifacts they stole. Luke pulled up images. Mystical items. Some from Kamartaj, some from Asgardian ruins, some we can't even identify. Magic users. Or someone employing them. Luke zoomed in on one artifact, a crystalline orb that pulsed with sickly purple light. This is a soul fragment container. Captured pieces of dark entities. If it's broken, the souls get released. Jin Woo finished. I've dealt with similar things in my world. They're trouble. Understatement. Luke leaned back. Wong's handling the mystical side. S.W.O.R.D's investigating the breach. But there's a third angle, the buyers. These artifacts don't have black market value to your average crime lord. They're specialist items. Someone ordered this heist specifically. And you want me to find out who? I want you to find the artifacts before they're sold or activated, and I want to know who's buying. Luke's expression was grim. This isn't a neighborhood problem anymore. This is citywide, possibly bigger. Jin Woo considered. A high-stakes job with potential for major conflict. Exactly the kind of challenge that would establish him in this world. But also exactly the kind of job that could blow up in his face. What's the opposition? He asked. Unknown. The heist team was professional, enhanced, and working with mystical support. They neutralized a S.W.O.R.D security detail without fatalities, which is almost more impressive than killing them would have been. Luke pulled up security footage. The images were blurry, but Jin Woo could make out 4 figures moving with coordinated precision. They used teleportation, energy manipulation, and something that looks like shadow magic. Jin Woo's eyes narrowed. One of the figures on screen moved wrong, their form flickering, dissolving into darkness at the edges. It wasn't his style, but it was similar enough to raise alarms. Whoever they are, they're good, Luke said. And they're not working for Kingpin or any of the usual suspects. This is new. Compensation? 50,000 if you recover the artifacts. 100 if you identify the buyer. Plus whatever S.W.O.R.D offers as a bounty. They've put up another 50 for information leading to recovery. Jin Woo did the math. 150,000 would set him up comfortably while he figured out his long-term situation. More importantly, it would give him leverage, resources, and connections. I'll need everything you have on the heist, Jin Woo said. Timelines, routes, security logs, witness statements. It's all on the tablet, encrypted. Passcode is the date the blip was reversed. Luke handed it over. One condition, you work with a partner on this. Jin Woo frowned. I work alone. Not this time. The network's too valuable to risk on a solo op when we don't know what we're dealing with. You'll work with Aurora. She's got experience with mystical threats, and she knows how to handle herself. The white-haired woman from the bar. Jin Woo remembered her storm cloud eyes, the way she'd moved with predatory grace. She was enhanced, clearly, and experienced. I don't need a babysitter. Then think of her as a guide. She knows this city's mystical underbelly better than anyone outside Kamartaj. And she's not S.W.O.R.D, not S.H.I.E.L.D, not any kind of official. She's independent, like you. Jin Woo considered. A partner meant complications, divided authority, potential for conflict. But it also meant backup, local knowledge, and someone who could handle aspects of the mission he wasn't equipped for. Fine, he said. When do we start? Now. Luke stood. She's waiting upstairs. Apartment 3B. Don't keep her waiting. She's not as patient as I am. Ororo's apartment was sparse, functional, and completely at odds with her dramatic appearance. The walls were bare except for a single photograph of a younger Ororo with a dark-skinned man in military gear, both smiling. The furniture was utilitarian, the kitchen spotless, and the air smelled of ozone and herbs. She was waiting by the window, looking down at the street below. When Jin Woo entered, she didn't turn. Luke says you're the solution to our artifact problem, she said, her voice cool. I'm not convinced. I don't need you to be convinced, Jin Woo replied. I need you to be competent. That got her attention. She turned, those white eyes fixing on him with unsettling intensity. I've been fighting magical threats since before you were born, boy. Don't mistake my skepticism for incompetence. Then let's skip the posturing, Jin Woo said, placing the tablet on her table. The heist was 2 days ago. Security footage shows 4 perpetrators. One uses shadow magic similar to mine, but different. Coarser, less controlled. Ororo finally moved away from the window, joining him at the table. Similar how? Watch. Jin Woo replayed the footage, freezing it at the moment the figure flickered. See how the shadows cling to him. They're not part of him. They're a tool. My shadows are extensions of my will. His are borrowed. Borrowed from where? That's what we need to find out. Jin Woo pulled up the artifact list. They took 12 items, all mystical, all dangerous, all with one thing in common. Ororo scanned the list, her frown deepening. They're all containment devices. Things that hold other things prisoner, souls, demons, cosmic energy. Exactly. Jin Woo zoomed in on the soul fragment container again. Someone isn't just collecting magic, they're collecting cages. And if you collect enough cages, you start wondering what you're going to put in them. Ororo finished. She looked up, her expression grim. This is worse than I thought. They spent the next hour cross-referencing the stolen artifacts with known black market dealers, mystical hotspots, and recent unusual activity in the city. Ororo's knowledge was extensive. She knew which sorcerers had gone rogue, which cults had recently gained power, which collectors had a taste for the dangerous and obscure. There's a broker, she said finally, pointing to a location on a digital map. Calls himself the Curator, operates out of a gallery in Chelsea, specializes in procuring unusual items for wealthy clients. If someone wanted these artifacts, they'd go through him. Then we start there. It's not that simple. The Curator's protected. Magical wards, enhanced security, and connections that go all the way up to S.W.O.R.D's upper echelons. We can't just walk in and demand answers. Jin Woo smiled, a cold, predatory expression. We're not going to demand. We're going to observe. He explained his plan. Simple, direct, and reliant on the one advantage they had. His shadows could go where people couldn't. Ororo listened, her initial skepticism fading into grudging respect. It might work, she admitted. But if we get caught, we won't. You're very confident. I'm very good. For the first time, Ororo smiled, a quick, sharp thing that didn't reach her eyes. All right, Shadow Monarch. Let's see how good you really are. The gallery was exactly as Aurora had described. Upmarket Chelsea real estate, all steel and glass and pretension, with security that would make a bank jealous. Jin Woo counted 12 guards, half of them enhanced based on their movement patterns, plus energy signatures that suggested active magical wards. He and Aurora watched from a rooftop across the street, the setting sun casting long shadows across the city. Perfect conditions. Wards are keyed to life signs and dimensional breaches, Aurora whispered, her eyes glowing faintly as she scanned the building. They won't detect your shadows if you're careful. But the moment you try to bring something physical through, I won't need to. Jin Woo focused, extending his consciousness through the shadows, connecting their rooftop to the gallery. It was like feeling his way through a maze blindfolded, straining against the unfamiliar magical resistance, but doable. Inside the gallery, he found what they were looking for. The curator was a thin, elegant man in his 60s, currently showing a potential client around. And in a vault beneath the building, Jin Woo sensed 3 of the stolen artifacts, their magical signatures unmistakable. Got them, Jin Woo said, opening his eyes. 3 artifacts in a sub-level vault. The curators with a client, 4 guards on the vault, 2 on the main floor. Can you extract them? Not without triggering the wards, but I can plant surveillance. Jin Woo concentrated, and a tiny fragment of his shadow detached, flowing down through the building's darkness to settle in a corner of the vault. A listening post, a set of eyes and ears. Aurora watched him work, her expression unreadable. That's impressive. It's basic. Jin Woo focused on the shadow fragment, listening. The curator's voice came through clear and cultured. Assure you, the remaining items will be delivered by week's end. Our mutual friend was quite specific about the timeline. A second voice, distorted by some kind of modulator. The timeline is non-negotiable. The alignment occurs in 72 hours. All 12 pieces must be in position. Of course, though I must admit curiosity, what exactly does one do with 12 soul containers? That, the modulated voice said coldly, is not your concern. Your concern is delivery and discretion. Our employer does not tolerate failure. The conversation continued, but Jin Woo had what he needed. He withdrew the shadow fragment, feeling the slight mana drain of maintaining it at distance. They're delivering the artifacts in 72 hours, he told Aurora, for some kind of alignment. Ritual magic. Aurora's face went pale. 72 hours from now is the lunar eclipse, maximum mystical convergence. She pulled out her own tablet, fingers flying across the screen. If someone's planning to use 12 soul containers during an eclipse, she showed him the results of her search. An obscure ritual, predating Kamartaj, banned in every magical text. The rite of hollow awakening. It opens a permanent gateway to the dimension between dimensions, Aurora explained, her voice tight. A place where souls go when they can't move on. It's not heaven, not hell, it's the in-between. And if you open a door there, whatever's inside comes out, Jin Woo finished. He'd seen similar things in his world. Gates that shouldn't be opened, dimensions that should remain separate. We need to stop the delivery. We need to stop the ritual, Aurora corrected. The delivery's just logistics. We need to find where it's happening and who's behind it. Jin Woo looked back at the gallery, at the elegant man inside who was selling pieces of a doomsday device. We start with the curator. He knows who hired him. Getting him to talk won't be easy. I don't need him to talk, Jin Woo said, his shadow stretching long and dark behind him. I just need him to lead us to them. Aurora studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, but we do this my way. No killing unless absolutely necessary." "Agreed." They descended from the rooftop, melting into the gathering dusk. The hunt was on, and Jin Woo felt that familiar adrenaline, that focus that came with a clear objective. This was what he knew. This was what he was good at. As they moved through the shadows toward the gallery, Jin Woo couldn't shake the feeling that something about this was familiar. The ritual, the artifacts, the timing. It reminded him of the system's architect, of the way power had been given, then taken, then transformed. Maybe he wasn't the only thing that had crossed over from his world. Maybe something else had come through with him. They waited until full dark, the gallery's sleek exterior becoming a monolith of shadow and reflected city light. Aurora moved first, her form dissolving into a swirl of mist and static that flowed down the fire escape, a useful trick, Jin Woo noted. Not true teleportation, but effective urban camouflage. He followed via shadow, emerging inside the gallery's basement level in the perfect darkness of a utility closet. Aurora reformed beside him, condensation beating on her skin and clothes. "Security's on a 5-minute patrol rotation," she whispered, her white eyes scanning through the door. "2 guards just passed. We have 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Jin Woo nodded, extending his senses through the building's shadows. The curator was still in his office on the ground floor, alone now, working on a terminal. The vault guards remained at their posts, disciplined and alert. "He's our best lead," Jin Woo murmured. "But if we take him directly, his employer will know they've been compromised." "We don't take him," Aurora agreed. "We make him come to us, or rather, to them." She produced a small carved stone from her pocket, a tracking beacon Jin Woo recognized. Kamartaj tech, if he had to guess. "If we can plant this on him, we can follow him to the delivery." "And if he checks for magical surveillance?" "He won't." Aurora's expression was confident. The curator's wards are commercial grade, expensive but generic. They're designed to detect intrusion and combat magic, not passive tracking. This, she held up the stone, is passive. No energy signature unless activated. Then we just need to get it on him. Aurora smiled, a flash of teeth in the gloom. "That's your department, Shadow Man. I'll create the distraction." She didn't wait for confirmation. Her form dissolved again, this time flowing upward through the ventilation system. Jin Woo felt the subtle shift in atmospheric pressure, the gathering charge of ozone. A moment later, the gallery's lights flickered, then died entirely. Emergency lighting clicked on, dim red bulbs that created more shadow than illumination. Perfect. Jin Woo flowed through the darkness, emerging behind the curator's desk. The man was already on his feet, tapping urgently at a tablet. "Security report," he snapped into a comm unit. "What's happening?" "Power surge, sir," a voice crackled back. "Generators engaging. Systems will be back in 90 seconds. The curator muttered something unflattering about New York's infrastructure and turned toward a wall safe disguised as a piece of modern art. As he worked the combination, Jin Woo moved. The tracking stone was small, smooth, magnetically attuned. Jin Woo placed it against the metal frame of the curator's tablet, where it clung with a barely audible click. The man didn't notice, his attention fixed on the safe. Inside were documents, cash, and a small, ornate box that radiated restrained magical energy. The curator removed the box, checked its contents. Jin Woo caught a glimpse of crystalline dust that glowed with internal light, then placed it in a briefcase. He was preparing to move. Jin Woo retreated into shadow as the lights flickered back on. Aurora's distraction had been precisely timed. The curator straightened his suit, took the briefcase, and headed for the door. "Lockdown protocol until I return," he ordered the security desk. "No visitors, no exceptions." He left through a private entrance, stepping into a waiting black sedan. Jin Woo flowed into the car's shadow just as the door closed. The drive was 20 minutes through late evening traffic, heading north out of Manhattan. Jin Woo maintained his shadow form, a strain on his mana reserves, but manageable. He could feel Aurora following somehow, a presence in the charged air, a whisper of storm energy moving parallel to their route. The sedan pulled into a private garage beneath a nondescript office building in the Bronx. The curator stepped out, briefcase in hand, and took an elevator up to the penthouse. Jin Woo went with him, a sliver of darkness clinging to the man's shadow. The penthouse was not what Jin Woo expected. Instead of opulence, he found a clinical, laboratory-clean space. White walls, white floors, banks of monitoring equipment, and in the center, a circular platform inscribed with glowing runes that hurt to look at. 3 people waited. The first was the modulated voice client from earlier, a woman in practical black attire, her face obscured by a high-tech visor. The second was a man in a lab coat, studying a holographic display of the stolen artifacts. The third, Jin Woo felt a cold recognition. The third figure stood slightly apart, his form flickering at the edges, shadows clinging to him like a second skin. Not Jin Woo's clean, controlled darkness, but something jagged, hungry, invasive. This was the shadow user from the security footage. But it wasn't just his power that was familiar. It was his posture, his bearing, the way he held himself ready for violence, even at rest. The curator placed the briefcase on a table. The final 3 artifacts, as requested. The woman in the visor opened the case, examined the contents with a scanner, then nodded. "Payment has been transferred. Your services are no longer required." The curator didn't need to be told twice. He left quickly, without pleasantries. The moment the elevator doors closed, the woman turned to the shadow user. "Report." "Wards are holding," the man said, his voice rough, strained. "But Kamartaj is searching. The Sorcerer Supreme has assigned teams. He won't find us. Not until it's too late." The woman turned to the scientist. "Alignment?" 71 hours, 14 minutes, the man in the lab coat replied. "All 12 artifacts are resonating correctly. The convergence point is stabilizing." "Good." The woman removed her visor, revealing sharp features and eyes that glowed with soft blue light. "Begin phase 2. Prepare the vessels." Jin Woo watched as they activated the platform. The runes blazed brighter, and the stolen artifacts rose from their containers, floating in the air in a perfect circle. Energy began to flow between them, forming a complex lattice of light. And then he felt it. A resonance, a vibration in his own shadow essence, a pull toward the artifacts. Not just because they were magical, but because they were familiar. One artifact in particular, a shard of obsidian that drank the light around it, called to him. He knew that energy signature. He'd felt it in his world, in the deepest dungeons, in the presence of the monarchs. This wasn't just random magic. This was his world's magic, or a twisted echo of it. The realization was a shock that nearly broke his concentration. He pulled back deeper into shadow, retreating to the elevator shaft where Aurora was waiting, having entered through a service entrance. "They're starting the ritual early," she whispered, her eyes wide as she watched through a vent. "They're not waiting for the eclipse." "Because they don't need to," Jin Woo said, reforming beside her. "The artifacts aren't just containers. They're amplifiers. and they're tuned to a frequency from my world. Ororo stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying this isn't a random magical threat. This is connected to my arrival. That shadow user down there, his power is a corrupted version of mine. And those artifacts are resonating with energy that shouldn't exist in this universe. Below, the ritual intensified. The shadow user stepped onto the platform, raising his hands. The artifact spun faster, and the shadows in the room crawled toward him, drawn like iron filings to a magnet. We have to stop this now, Ororo said, power gathering around her hands, sparks of electricity, the smell of rain. Wait. Jin Woo put a hand on her arm. There are 3 of them, and we don't know their full capabilities. Plus, if that ritual is as unstable as it looks, interrupting it could cause a backlash that levels the block. We can't just watch. We're not. Jin Woo's mind raced, formulating a plan. We need to disrupt the ritual without destroying it, create a controlled failure. How? By giving them more power than they can handle. Jin Woo looked at Ororo. Your storm magic, can you generate a sustained energy surge? Something that would overload those artifacts? Possibly, but it would take everything I've got. That's fine, I'll handle the rest. Jin Woo focused, reaching out to the shadows in the ritual chamber, not to attack, but to connect, to offer them a better source. The shadow user below gasped, stumbling as the flow of energy shifted. Something's wrong. The artifacts are hungry. They're pulling more than we're feeding them. The woman in blue glowing eyes frowned. Impossible. The calculations are precise. Unless there's another source nearby, the scientist said, checking his instruments. A compatible energy signature acting as a beacon. They all looked around, suspicion dawning. Jin Woo chose that moment to act. He stepped out of the shadows, fully visible, at the edge of the ritual chamber. All 3 froze, staring at him. You, the shadow user breathed, recognition in his voice. You're the one, the anomaly Wong's been hiding. I'm the one whose power you're trying to copy. Jin Woo corrected, his voice calm. And you're doing it wrong. The woman recovered first. Kill him. The shadow user lunged, shadows erupting from him like black spikes. Jin Woo didn't move. He simply raised a hand, and the spikes shattered, dissolving into nothingness. You're using borrowed power, Jin Woo said, stepping forward. Power that doesn't belong to you. Power that's fighting you every step of the way. He could feel it now, the strain in the man, the way the shadows resisted his control. Where did you get it? From the tear you left behind, the shadow user snarled. When you crossed over, you left a wound, and in that wound, I found this. He gestured to the swirling darkness around him. A piece of your world, a piece of your power. So that was it. Jin Woo's arrival hadn't just been a transition, it had been a violation, a rip in reality that had bled energy into this universe, energy that someone had learned to harness. You can't control it, Jin Woo said. Not fully. It's consuming you. I don't need to control it forever, just long enough. The artifacts were glowing dangerously now, pulses of light synchronized with the shadow user's heartbeat. The ritual was accelerating. Ororo, now! Jin Woo shouted. Above them, the ceiling exploded inward, not with physical force, but with a torrent of wind and lightning. Ororo descended on a whirlwind, her hair whipping around her, eyes blazing white. She unleashed a concentrated bolt of energy directly into the circle of artifacts. The aft reaction was immediate and catastrophic. The artifacts, already overloaded by Jin Woo's shadow energy, couldn't handle the sudden influx of storm magic. They screamed, an actual, audible sound of tearing reality, and began to fracture. No, the woman shouted, but it was too late. Jin Woo moved, not toward the enemies, but toward the artifacts. He couldn't stop the ritual from collapsing, but he could direct the failure. He extended his will, his own shadow essence, and pulled. The energy didn't explode outward. It collapsed inward, drawn into Jin Woo's shadow like water down a drain. He grunted with the strain, feeling his mana reserves plummet as he contained the backlash. The artifacts shattered, but their energy didn't escape. It poured into him, a torrent of alien magic that burned and froze at the same time. His system interface flickered wildly. Warning: external energy inundation. Shadow Monarch essence stabilizing. System reboot initiated. Reboot? Jin Woo had no time to process that. The shadow user was screaming, the borrowed power tearing itself free of his control. The woman was activating escape protocols. The scientist was already running. Aurora landed beside Jin Woo, breathing heavily from the exertion. "The building's coming down. We need to go." Jin Woo nodded, but his eyes were on the shadow user, now writhing on the ground as the corrupted shadows consumed him. There was no saving him. The power had fused with his essence. Removing it would kill him. But Jin Woo could offer a cleaner death. He stepped forward, placed a hand on the man's forehead, and commanded, "Sleep." His shadows flowed into the man, not to attack, but to soothe, to calm the raging energy, to grant a moment of peace before the end. The man's eyes met his, filled with pain and confusion. What are you?" "Someone who understands power," Jin Woo said softly, "and its price." The man went still, his breathing evening out. The shadows around him calmed, then dissipated. He was dead, but he looked peaceful. Aurora stared at Jin Woo. You didn't have to do that." "Yes," Jin Woo said, standing. "I did." The building shuddered, more explosions rocking the lower floors. The woman had triggered failsafes. "Time to go," Aurora said, creating a wind tunnel that lifted them both toward the hole in the ceiling. They escaped as the penthouse collapsed into fire and ruin behind them, landing on a nearby rooftop. Below, emergency vehicles were already converging. "We didn't get the buyer," Aurora said, watching the chaos. "The woman escaped. But we stopped the ritual," Jin Woo replied, "and we know more than we did." He looked at his hands, feeling the strange energy still coursing through him. The artifact power wasn't gone. It was integrated, absorbed. His system interface was still rebooting, progress at 23%. Whatever had just happened, it had changed something fundamental. Not just about the situation, but about him. Aurora placed a hand on his shoulder. "You okay?" "I will be," Jin Woo said. And for the first time since arriving in this universe, he meant it. He had a purpose now, a mystery to solve. Because if pieces of his world were here, bleeding into this reality, then maybe there was a way back. And maybe he wasn't as alone as he'd thought. Kamar Taj's medical wing smelled of antiseptic, rare herbs, and ozone, the aftermath of treated magical trauma. Jin Woo lay on a cot, sensors attached to his temples and chest, while Wong and Erica monitored the readouts with increasingly concerned expressions. "Your shadow essence has integrated the artifact energy," Wong said, his voice carefully neutral. "It's not rejecting it. It's adapting it. I've never seen anything like this." "The system is rebooting," Jin Woo said, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. The progress bar in his vision had crawled to 47%. "It's integrating data from this universe, redefining parameters." Erica exchanged a look with Wong. "Your system is rewriting itself based on local magical physics. That shouldn't be possible. Software doesn't work that way." "It's not software," Jin Woo corrected quietly. It never was. It's a metaphysical framework imposed on my soul by the architect. A set of rules for interacting with reality. Now it's learning a new set of rules. The implications hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. If your power can adapt to this universe's laws, Wong began slowly, then it can also influence them, permanently. The tear you left behind, the wound that man mentioned, it's not healing, it's festering. Your presence is changing the fundamental texture of local reality. Jin Woo sat up, ignoring the protests of the censors. The woman who escaped, the one with the blue eyes. Who was she? Wong's expression darkened. We don't know. No magical signature on record, no genetic match in any database. But her methodology, it's professional. This wasn't a cult or a rogue sorcerer. This was a coordinated operation with clear objectives. She called the artifacts vessels, Jin Woo recalled. She said they were preparing for an alignment, not the eclipse, something else. Erica pulled up a holographic star chart. There's another convergence in 8 days. Planetary alignment, coupled with a surge in cosmic background radiation from a nearby pulsar. It's a once-in-a-millennium event. If someone wanted to punch a permanent hole between dimensions, they'd need a power source, Wong finished. A massive one. He looked at Jin Woo. Like a dimensional anomaly integrating foreign energy. Like you. The pieces clicked into place with cold, brutal clarity. Jin Woo had been a variable, an accident. But now he was a component. His arrival had created an opportunity, and someone was building a machine around it. They'll try again, Jin Woo said. They have the knowledge, the resources, and they know I'm here now. They won't stop. We need to find them first, Erica said. But we're at a disadvantage. They're hidden and we don't know their endgame. We know they want a permanent gateway, Jin Woo said, standing. The sensors peeled away from his skin. We know they need a power source tied to my world, and we know they're willing to kill to get it. That's enough to start. Wong blocked the door. You're not going anywhere. Your essence is fluctuating. If you push yourself now, you could destabilize completely. If I wait, they'll complete their plan, Jin Woo countered. And if they succeed, what happens? A bridge between worlds? An invasion? My monarchs are dead. But the dungeons aren't. The monsters aren't. If they open a door to my world, everything comes through. The horror of that image silenced the room. An endless tide of dungeon monsters, pouring into a universe unprepared for them. The death toll would be incalculable. We need help, Erica said finally. This is bigger than Kamartaj. Bigger than street-level heroes. Wong's jaw tightened. I'll contact Carol and the remaining Avengers, but convincing them will require proof. I'll get proof, Jin Woo said, but I need to move, now. A compromise was reached. Erica would accompany him. Her mystical knowledge and combat experience made her an ideal partner, and she could monitor his condition. Wong would mobilize the sorcerers and reach out to the broader hero community. As they prepared to leave, Jin Woo's system interface flickered. Reboot 72% complete. New parameters detected: cosmic energy, mystical arts, enhanced physiology. Integrating. Shadow Monarch class evolution available. Evolution. The word sent a thrill through him. In his world, evolution had meant transcending human limits, becoming something more. What would it mean here with this universe's energy mixed into his essence? Not yet, he decided. He couldn't afford the distraction or the unknown variables. They returned to Hell's Kitchen, to Luke's bar. The mood there had shifted. News of the Bronx incident had spread through the enhanced community. The bar was packed, not with regulars, but with faces Jin Woo recognized from news reports and S.W.O.R.D dossiers. Heroes, vigilantes, independents. Luke met them at the door, his expression grim. They're waiting for you. Words out about what happened, about what you are. Inside, the conversations died as Jin Woo entered. He felt dozens of eyes on him, assessing, judging. He recognized some. The man with the metal wings, Falcon. The green-skinned woman from before. Others he didn't know, but their power signatures were clear. A man in a red and blue suit stepped forward. Spider-Man, Jin Woo guessed, based on the iconic costume. You're the dimensional refugee? Yes. The guy who almost blew up a city block. The guy who stopped a city block from being blown up. Aurora corrected, stepping to Jin Woo's side. He contained the backlash, saved lives. He also absorbed enough mystical energy to light up Kamartaj's sensors from 3 states away, a new voice said. A brunette woman with fiery red hair stepped into the light. Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, alive somehow. Wong filled us in. Says you're a walking reality wound. I'm a person who didn't ask to be here, Jin Woo said, meeting her gaze. And I'm trying to prevent a disaster that would make the blip look like a minor inconvenience. By doing what? Falcon asked. Going rogue? Working outside any chain of command? By doing what needs to be done, Jin Woo said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. I don't answer to your governments. I don't answer to your accords. I answer to the people who will die if I fail. That's it. That's not how we work here, Spider-Man said, though he sounded more conflicted than angry. Then maybe you should, Jin Woo shot back. Because your systems failed. Thanos happened. The blip happened. And now this is happening. Someone is building a dimensional bomb, and they're using pieces of my world to do it. If they succeed, you won't need rules or accords. You'll need an army, and you won't have one. The silence that followed was thick, tense. Natasha studied him with a spy's calculating eyes. What's your play? Find the woman with the blue eyes. Find her employer. Stop them before they can try again. And how do you propose to do that? Falcon asked. S.W.O.R.D can't find them. Kamartaj can't find them. Because they're looking in this dimension, Jin Woo said. The idea had been forming since the ritual, crystallizing now. The tear I left, the wound. It's not just a source of energy, it's a bridge, a weak point. They're using it, which means they're connected to it. And I am the tear. Understanding dawned on Erica's face. You're going to use yourself as bait, as a tracker. I'm going to follow the thread back to its source, Jin Woo confirmed. My shadow essence is tied to the energy they're using. I can feel it, like a pull. I can find them. And then what? Natasha pressed. You take them on alone? No, Jin Woo said, looking around the room. Then we take them on together. But only if you're willing to work outside your rules. Only if you're willing to follow my lead. The proposal hung in the air, audacious, borderline insulting. He was asking Earth's heroes to follow an unknown, an outsider, into a fight against an enemy they didn't understand. It was Spider-Man who broke the stalemate. Okay. Everyone turned to look at him. Look, the young hero said, shifting uncomfortably under the attention. I've fought aliens, wizards, guys with robot arms. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. And the one thing I've learned is that when someone says, I can stop the disaster, you let them try. Especially when the alternative is a disaster. Falcon sighed, rubbing his temples. He's not wrong. Our usual playbook isn't Working here? Natasha's lips quirked in a faint, humorless smile. Fine. But we do this smart. We plan, we coordinate, and the moment you step out of line, we pull the plug. Understood? Jin Woo nodded. Understood. The next few hours were a blur of planning. Jin Woo provided everything he'd learned about the ritual, the artifacts, the energy signatures. The heroes brought tactical expertise, technology, and resources. The plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. Jin Woo would deliberately tap into the wound, channeling energy to create a beacon the enemy would detect. They would come to him, drawn to the power source. The heroes would be waiting, hidden, ready to strike. The location was chosen carefully. An abandoned Stark Industries facility upstate, isolated, warded by Kamar-Taj sorcerers to contain any collateral damage. As they prepared to leave, Ororo pulled Jin Woo aside. You're taking a huge risk. If you lose control of that energy, if you can't shut it down. I can control it, Jin Woo said, more confident than he felt. His system was at 89% reboot, almost there. It's not just the energy I'm worried about, she said quietly. It's you. You're changing. I can see it. The artifacts, the integration. You're not the same man who walked into my bar a few days ago. I was never just a man, Jin Woo replied. I'm the Shadow Monarch, and a monarch's duty is to protect his kingdom, even if it's a kingdom he never asked for. They traveled to the facility in silence. The heroes dispersed to their positions, snipers on the rooftops, mystical containment teams at the perimeter, strike teams ready to move. Jin Woo stood alone in the center of the vast, empty hangar. He closed his eyes, reaching inward. The wound was there, a palpable wrongness in his essence, a scar left by his violent transition between worlds. He touched it, carefully, and power surged in response, not his shadow energy, but something wilder, rawer, the leaked energy of his home dimension mixed with the artifact residue and the latent magic of this universe. He began to pull it forth. Darkness exploded from him, not the clean black of his shadows, but a swirling vortex of purple and black energy that crackled with lightning. The hangar's lights blew out. The air grew cold, then hot, then cold again. Reality itself seemed to warp around him, the walls shimmering like a mirage. His system interface flashed. Reboot 97%, 98%, 99%. Integration complete. Shadow Monarch class evolution imminent. Warning, cosmic signature detected. Cosmic signature? Before he could process it, he felt them. Presences approaching. Not from the doors, but from the shadows themselves. Tears in reality, opening like vertical wounds. 6 figures stepped through. The blue-eyed woman led them, flanked by 5 others in identical tactical gear. Their eyes all glowed with the same eerie blue light. You took the bait, the woman said, her voice echoing strangely in the warped space. I admit, I didn't think you'd be so predictable. I'm full of surprises, Jin Woo said, keeping the energy vortex swirling around him. Who are you? What do you want? We are the Convergence, she said, as if that explained everything. And we want what every intelligent species wants, survival. Your world is dying. The war between monarchs and rulers shattered its foundational laws. It's collapsing in on itself. But its energy, its essence, that can be harvested, transferred, used to fuel a new world. Our new world. The horror of her words sank in. They weren't just trying to open a door. They were trying to perform a cosmic-scale transfusion, draining his dying universe to power something in this one. You're going to kill billions, Jin Woo said, his voice deathly quiet. Billions who are already doomed, the woman countered. We're offering salvation for this universe. A new age of power, free from scarcity, free from the arbitrary laws of physics. All it costs is a world that's already dead. It's not dead yet, Jin Woo snarled. The energy around him surged, responding to his rage. His shadows rose from the ground, not as soldiers, but as a tsunami of darkness. The woman smiled. Good. Show us your power. Let us measure the worth of a dying world. She raised a hand, and her team attacked. They weren't using conventional weapons. They wielded reality itself, twisting space, bending light, rewriting local physics. One of them fired a beam that erased matter, leaving perfect geometric holes in the floor. Another created zones of accelerated time, where rust bloomed on metal in seconds. Jin Woo moved, shadow exchange carrying him across the hangar in an instant. He summoned his army, but not the whole of it. 100 soldiers, his elite vanguard. They clashed with the convergence operatives, shadow blades meeting distorted reality. But these weren't normal foes. They adapted, learning from each attack. They began to counter his shadows, using frequencies of energy that caused them to destabilize. They're analyzing your power, Erica's voice shouted in his calm. They're building countermeasures. Jin Woo gritted his teeth. He needed to end this fast. He pulled more power from the wound, feeding it into his soldiers, empowering them. They grew larger, stronger, but he could feel the strain. The backlash was tearing at him. The system interface flashed urgently. Evolution forced. Accept, YN. He had no choice. Accept. Power, raw and unimaginable, flooded his being. It wasn't just his shadow essence. It was everything. The artifact energy, the cosmic radiation, the latent magic of two universes. It fused within him, and he changed. Wings of pure shadow and starlight erupted from his back. His eyes became voids filled with swirling galaxies. The shadows around him didn't just obey. They were him, extensions of his will made manifest. The convergence operatives froze, their confidence shattering. What are you? The blue-eyed woman whispered. I am the bridge, Jin Woo said, his voice layered, echoing. I am the tear, and I am the seal. He raised a hand, and reality stilled. The operative's distortions froze mid-effect. The energy vortex reversed, flowing back into him. He wasn't just absorbing power, he was absorbing the concept of the wound, healing it from the inside out. The woman screamed as her connection to the tear was severed. The blue light in her eyes flickered, died. She collapsed, along with her team. The hangar fell silent, the warped space smoothing back to normal. Jin Woo's evolved form shimmered, then faded, returning him to normal. The power was still there, contained, controlled, but the visual manifestation was too much to maintain. He sank to one knee, breathing heavily. The evolution had worked, but the cost was immense. His mana was nearly depleted, his body screaming in protest. The heroes emerged from their positions, weapons lowered, expressions awestruck and wary. Spider-Man was the first to reach him. Dude, that was something. Jin Woo looked up, his vision swimming. Did we get them all? We got the strike team, Natasha confirmed, checking the unconscious operatives. But if their plan was this big, there will be more. Higher-ups. Jin Woo nodded, pushing himself to his feet. The immediate threat was over. The ritual was stopped. The tear was healing. But the convergence was still out there. And now they knew what he was capable of. And he knew what they wanted. His world, dying, his people, doomed. Unless he could find a way to save both. The medical wing of Kamartaj was quieter this time. The immediate crisis had passed, but the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken questions. Jin Woo sat on the edge of the cot, his body thrumming with the aftermath of forced evolution. The system interface was stable now, transformed. Name, Jin Woo. Class, Adaptive Shadow Monarch. Status, Dimensional Anchor. Abilities, Shadow Command, Reality Integration, Cosmic Attunement. Unique trait, Bridge of Worlds, Bridge of Worlds. The title felt both like a burden and a key. Wong entered, his face drawn with exhaustion and concern. The Convergence operatives are in magical containment. Their minds are shielded. High-grade psychic blocks. We're learning little. What about the blue-eyed woman? Jin Woo asked. Her name is Lyra, former S.W.O.R.D deep cover agent. Went missing during the blip. Reappeared 6 months ago with new loyalties and abilities she shouldn't have. Wong handed him a dossier. She was recruited, offered a vision of a perfected universe. One where the chaos of the blip, the suffering, the randomness, all of it would be given order and purpose through controlled cosmic engineering. By draining my world dry. The cold anger in Jin Woo's voice made the temperature dip. It's a monstrous solution to a real problem, Wong admitted, sitting heavily in a chair. Your universe is collapsing. The energy we detected from the tear isn't just leakage, it's death throes. The war between monarchs and rulers broke something fundamental. Reality there is unraveling. Jin Woo had known, in some deep, unacknowledged part of himself. The system's silence, the architect's absence, the feeling of finality when he'd closed the last gate. He had saved his world from the monarchs, but perhaps he'd only won a stay of execution. So they're not entirely wrong, he said quietly. Just evil. Evil is often a matter of perspective when survival is at stake, Wong said. But their method is genocidal. There has to be another way. Jin Woo looked at his hands, at the faint shimmer of cosmic energy now woven into his shadow essence. The evolution. I integrated energy from both universes. I didn't just heal the tear, I became it. I'm a stable bridge now. Wong's eyes sharpened. What are you suggesting? That maybe the solution isn't to drain one world to save another. Maybe it's to save both. The idea, once spoken, felt inevitable. The Convergence wants to use the bridge as a siphon. What if we use it as a support beam? To stabilize my world using the solidity of this one? The Sorcerer Supreme stared at him. That's theoretically possible, but the energy requirements would be astronomical. You'd need a power source beyond anything on Earth. Not on Earth, Jin Woo said, standing. You said it yourself. They were waiting for a cosmic alignment. They needed that surge of background radiation. They were going to use me as a focus, but they were going to use the pulsar's energy as the fuel. Wong's breath caught. You want to hijack their plan. Use the alignment, but redirect it. Not to siphon, but to reinforce. It's the only way. It's suicide. Erica's voice came from the doorway. She walked in, her arms crossed. Even in your evolved state, channeling that much raw cosmic energy would burn you out. You'd be a conduit for a star's death throes. There's nothing in any universe that could survive that. I survived becoming the Shadow Monarch, Jin Woo said. I survived crossing dimensions. I'll survive this. You don't know that. No. But I know what happens if I don't try. He met her storm cloud eyes. My mother is there. My sister. My friends. Billions of people who have no idea their world is dying. I have to try. The silence stretched, broken only by the hum of Kamartaj's ancient wards. It would require precision, Wong said finally, his voice low. We'd have to calculate the exact moment of alignment, create focusing, arrays to channel the energy through you and into the bridge, and pray the structure holds. and we'd need to do it from the Convergence's own facility, Jin Woo added. They'll have the infrastructure in place. We just need to turn it around. They'll be guarding it, Erica warned. Then we'll take it from them. The planning session that followed was unlike anything Jin Woo had experienced. It wasn't a hunter team preparing for a dungeon raid. It was a war council. They gathered in the Kamartaj strategy room. Wong and his senior sorcerers, Natasha Romanoff and what remained of the Avengers network, Luke Cage and the street-level heroes who knew how to fight dirty, and Carol Danvers, who had returned from off-world at Wong's urgent summons. Carol studied Jin Woo with new respect. Wong says you plan to pull energy from a pulsar to save another universe. That's the kind of crazy I usually only hear from Thor after too much mead. Will it work? Jin Woo asked. Physically? Maybe. The energy's there. The alignment is real. The Convergence built the hardware. The question is whether you can handle the software. She tapped his chest. You're the circuit. If you burn out, the energy goes wild. It could fry this hemisphere. Then I won't burn out. Carol's smile was sharp. I like your confidence. All right, I'm in. But we do this right. We need the Convergence's base location. We have it, Natasha said, pulling up a holographic display. She'd interrogated Lyra using a combination of psychological pressure and Stark Tech truth serum. It's not on Earth. It's in orbit around Neptune. A cloaked station built from repurposed Chitauri and Sanctuary 2 wreckage. That's where the main focusing array is. Orbit? Spider-Man's voice was a squeak. We're going to space? Some of us are, Carol said. I can get a team there, fast. But we'll need to take the station quickly and quietly. If they trigger failsafes, the array is useless. I can get us in, Jin Woo said. Shadow exchange works on line of sight, but if I have a visual from a scout... I can get you a visual, Carol said. I'll do a flyby, transmit the feed. You bring the strike team directly to the control room. The plan coalesced with military efficiency. Strike teams, diversionary attacks, mystical support. Jin Woo was the linchpin, the irreplaceable component. The weight of it should have been crushing, but it felt familiar. This was what he was made for. In the hours before launch, Jin Woo found himself on a Kamartaj balcony, looking at the stars. Aurora joined him, holding 2 cups of tea. You're thinking about home, she said, not a question. My sister, Jin. She just started college, wanted to be a teacher. He took the offered cup. My mother. She was sick for a long time. I became a hunter to pay her medical bills. She's better now. She gardens. He shook his head, a faint, painful smile touching his lips. Small, normal things. That's what they're fighting for. They don't know about monarchs or dimensional collapses. They just live. That's what most people do, Aurora said softly. Just live, while people like us fight to give them that chance. She looked at him. You don't have to do this alone, you know? You've got allies here now. Friends, even. The word felt foreign. In his world, he'd had allies. Cha Hai-in, Wu Jin-chul, Thomas Andre. But they'd been fellow hunters, comrades in arms. This was different. These people owed him nothing. They were risking everything for a world they'd never seen. Why are you helping? He asked. Because it's right, she said simply. And because I've seen what happens when good people do nothing. The world drowns. The operation began at midnight, Greenwich Mean Time. Carol Danvers shot into orbit, a golden streak against the black. Minutes later, the visual feed reached Jin Woo's comm. A grainy, real-time view of a jagged, dark station silhouetted against Neptune's blue bulk. Got it, Jin Woo said. He stood in a Kamartaj courtyard with the strike team. Himself, Natasha, Spider-Man, in a new black and red spacesuit, and a sorcerer named Finn, expert in protective wards. "Remember," Natasha said, checking her energy pistol. "In and out. Secure the control room. Protect Jin Woo while he works. No heroics." "Define heroics," Spider-Man muttered. Jin Woo focused on the image, extending his will through the bridge of worlds trait. He could feel the distance, the vacuum, the cold. He could also feel the station's energy signature, the same corrupted blend of his world's death throes and stolen magic. "Ready," he said. Shadow enveloped them, not the darkness of Earth's night, but the absolute void between stars. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound, no light, no sensation of body. Then they were reforming on cold metal grating in a dimly lit corridor of the Convergence station. Alarms blared instantly. They hadn't arrived unseen. "Go," Natasha ordered. "Finn, with me. Spider-Man, clear the path. Jin Woo to the control room. It's this way." They moved as a unit, a well-oiled machine. Spider-Man webbed security doors shut and disabled turrets with pinpoint web shots. Natasha and Finn provided covering fire, her bullets and his magical bolts taking down Converge guards in armored suits. The guards' weapons fired beams of distorted reality, but Finn's wards held, shimmering golden in the chaotic gloom. Jin Woo ran, his shadow soldiers flowing ahead of him as scouts. They met resistance, more guards, and 2 enhanced operatives who wielded time distortion fields. Jin Woo didn't slow. He unleashed a wave of solidified shadow that froze them in place, a temporary stasis he couldn't maintain for long, but didn't need to. The control room doors were massive, inscribed with the same runes from the penthouse ritual. Locked, reinforced. Jin Woo placed his hands on the metal. He didn't try to break it. Instead, he asked his shadows to unmake it. The door didn't shatter. It dissolved, particles drifting away like ash. Inside, a dozen technicians stared in shock. At the central console stood a man Jin Woo hadn't seen before. Tall, gaunt, wearing simple robes, his eyes not blue but a deep, void-like black. "The anchor," the man said, his voice a dry whisper that seemed to come from everywhere. "You came to us. How efficient." "Shut it down," Jin Woo commanded, his soldiers fanning out. "The array is already active. The alignment begins in 3 minutes. You cannot stop the inevitable." The man gestured, and the technicians collapsed, their life energy flowing into the console. The station shuddered, power levels spiking. The Convergence will be born. A new universe, ordered, perfect, born from the ashes of the flawed old ones. "You're killing billions. We are saving quintillions," the man roared, his form blurring, expanding. "Across the multiverse, realities bleed and die in chaos. We will bring order, starting with yours." He wasn't just a man. He was a vessel like Lyra, but filled with something far older and more terrible, a consciousness that saw universes as raw material. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to shift. The pulsar's energy was arriving. "No time," Natasha yelled over the comm. "The array is focusing. It's targeting you." A beam of pure cosmic energy, visible as a ribbon of violent violet light, lanced through space and struck the station, not to destroy it, to fuel it. The energy poured into the array, and the array was tuned to the bridge, to Jin Woo. Agony, white-hot, universe-ending agony. He felt every particle of his being light up, strain, threaten to fly apart. The system screamed warnings he couldn't read, but he also felt the other end of the bridge. His world, weakening, fraying, calling out. The Convergence leader laughed, spreading his arms, drinking in the energy. "Thank you, Anchor. You brought us the key, and now you power the lock." Jin Woo, through the pain, realized the truth. They weren't using the array to siphon his world. They were using him as the siphon. The array was just an amplifier. His evolved state, his connection to both worlds, he was the perfect conduit. If he couldn't stop the flow, he had to redirect it. He stopped fighting the energy. Instead, he opened himself completely. He let the pulsar's power flood into him, through him, and into the bridge. But he didn't let it go to the convergence's designed endpoint. He pushed it sideways, not to drain his world, to reinforce it. He envisioned the unraveling laws of his reality, the crumbling dungeons, the fading gates, the fragile lives, and he poured cosmic energy into the framework, not as a replacement, but as a brace, a support. The station around him shuddered violently. The array was rejecting the redirection. Alarms became screams of tearing metal. "What are you doing?" The convergence leader shrieked, his form destabilizing. "Saving my world," Jin Woo gritted out, "without killing yours." He could feel it working. The bleeding of his universe slowed, then stopped. The death throes eased, replaced by a fragile, glowing stability. It wouldn't last forever. It was a bandage, not a cure, but it would last long enough. Centuries, maybe. Time to find a real solution. But the energy had to go somewhere. He was redirecting the siphon, but he couldn't stop the flow from the pulsar. He made a choice. He turned the bridge inward. The cosmic energy, instead of flowing out, he began to absorb. Not into his body, into his very essence, into the Shadow Monarch's core. It was too much. It was annihilation. But it was also salvation. His shadow soldiers, feeling his intent, didn't try to stop him. They stood guard, a final, loyal line. Natasha and the others were shouting in his calm, but he couldn't hear them over the roar of cosmic fire in his veins. The convergence leader was gone, disintegrated by the feedback. The station was breaking apart around him. "Jin Woo!" Carol's voice broke through, clear and commanding. "I'm coming in. Get to the viewport." He stumbled toward the cracking transparasteel. Outside, he saw Carol Danvers flying toward him, glowing like a miniature sun, pushing through the destabilizing energy field. He didn't have the strength to shadow exchange. He was burning up from the inside. Just as the station's hull ruptured, Carol smashed through the viewport, grabbed him, and pulled him into the void. She wrapped them both in a bubble of her energy, shielding them from the vacuum and the detonating station. The last thing Jin Woo saw before darkness took him was Neptune, serene and blue, and the fading echo of a bridge, now closed, but stable. His world was safe. For now. In the medical bay of a S.W.O.R.D orbital facility, Sung Jin Woo opened his eyes to a different kind of silence. The agonizing roar of cosmic energy was gone, replaced by the steady beep of monitors and the low hum of life support. He was alive, though his body felt like glass that had been shattered and painstakingly glued back together. Wong and Carol Danvers stood at the foot of his bed. The news was a mix of victory and sobering reality. The convergence was shattered, its leadership destroyed. His world was stabilized, the bleeding stopped. The bridge was sealed, not torn, but healed. A scar between realities, rather than an open wound. But Jin Woo was changed. The forced evolution had permanently altered his essence. He was no longer just the Shadow Monarch of one world. He was a living relic of two. He had a home here now, in the MCU, with allies who had fought for a world they'd never seen. And he had a duty there, to a home that now had time. He was neither fully here nor there. He was the guardian of the in-between. And as he looked out at the stars through the viewport, he knew his work was far from over. The multiverse was infinite, and saving one piece of it was just the beginning.